Are we ready, Susan? Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Education to order. Please rise for the pledge. Hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this evening's meeting is a public work session, and we'll be exploring the topic of the International Baccalaureate Advanced Placement. I'd like to turn it over to the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. So this evening we do have a presentation that was prepared by Mr. Davidson along with our curriculum coordinators and our building administrators, and I want to thank them certainly for their attention to the detail within this presentation. It's on our advanced studies programs, and I'll just introduce, for those of you watching at home, you're seeing the backs of some people's heads. That's our administrative team who is involved with the presentation this evening. So we have Dr. Turner, Ms. Manzo, Ms. Watson, Ms. Farina, Mr. Sarandria, Ms. Trinetsky, of course Mr. Davidson, Ms. Villa, Dr. Kivelos, Mr. DiClemente, and Mr. Packard. So I wanted to thank all of them for their work on this. And without further ado, I will transition over to Mr. Davidson.
Good evening. Good evening. Happy New Year. I'm going to try to be succinct. I can't promise you anything.
You got beeped. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, what's happening?
We talk about advanced studies. Really falls within three areas. We have our traditional international baccalaureate program, which offers individual courses, individualized courses, and a full diploma program. The aspects of which I'll talk about later. We also have an advanced placement program where students can take individual courses that also allow for college credit. There are two hyperlinks there that can give you some information about credits that are accepted by specific colleges and universities. So if you look at IB, for instance, it talks about the opportunity for students to get 18 college credits while in high school that transfer to Columbia, and so on and so forth. So you can look at those links. And then finally, we have the dual enrollment program. The dual enrollment are courses that are supported by a local college. So we've partnered with St. John's and LIU, and they allow students to earn college credit. While all of these students are enrolled in high school courses here and earn college credits simultaneously, they have the opportunity to. So, one of the questions that comes up, and it's something we've grappled with as an administrative team, and we often hear open enrollment. And we really are looking at what we try to do is more informed selection, and that's something that's changed in the last couple of years. So IB and AP, as well as New York State, encourages students who are ready to take advanced coursework and in these three areas, particularly in AP and IB. In fact, we're measured as a district as to our ability to have students take those courses. But in Locust Valley, our counselors meet with students. They talk about their interests, they talk about their passions, they look at their work ethic, they look at their effort over time, their achievement, and then they start to give students feedback along with their teachers on what would be the best course work for a student to take in the years to follow. Open enrollment is no longer a push to just put as many kids into IB and AP as possible. There was a time, many years ago, where that was valued over achievement, and now it's a blend of participation and achievement. We want students to have access, we want them to be successful, we also know that there is an in-between there, where students can have access, and maybe the grade might not be as reflective, but they still benefit widely. So our open enrollment, if you're going to call it that, and I think we're supplanting that with informed choice, ultimately if a student wishes to enroll and met any prerequisites, then there might be opportunity is open to him or her. However, our discussions with students and families focus on informed selection. Here are the reasons why we think their child should take what he or she should. Our staff does that widely. So, eligibility, this really does outline it. What is the advanced course like? Why is it different? How is it different? AP is offered in 9th through 12th grade. So those credits are available depending on the course throughout a child's experience, student's experience. There are required course objectives prescribed by the AP. Our curriculum must be approved by AP. The assessments are mainly multiple choice and responses or essay questions. In order to pass an AP course, a student must receive a 3 or greater out of 5. Now, in traditional terms, we look at passing as just getting by, a 65, I guess, in number 100, base 100. But passing with a 3 is more than that. It really means that this child has completed college-level work. So a 3 is a great score. Obviously, we want to see students get 4s and 5s, but it's certainly a great indicator. In terms of IB, we have a little more autonomy. There are definitely standards and required topics. It focuses on applications of skills, on authentic learning, and our curriculum and our program is reviewed every 5 years by IB. So the last study was 2016. We're currently undergoing a study where our program is being reviewed at this time. The assessments are different. They're both internal assessments that students are taking as long as they go with the courses. These could vary from performance assessments, they could be investigations, lab experiences, it could be an art portfolio, and coupled with the external assessments that students sit for in May. And these are a little more prescriptive. You're looking at essays, you're looking at text response questions. So it is a blend and a combination where AP looks at really more over one assessment. IB has multiple. So those are definitely some differences. Passing is a 4 or greater and out of 7. And again, I emphasize that 4 is a very good score. Finally, in St. John's and LIU courses, there's a slight difference. It's very much like a student attending college. It's not based on the exit exam as to whether or not a student will get college credit. It's based on their performance over the course of the year. So a student in a coding course for LIU may wind up with an A. There's not a final assessment in the sense that we would look with AP and IB as an assessment over time. As a student doing the course, there could be research papers, there could be assignments and tests. The college to dual enrollment threshold is challenging. It's just not generally considered as challenging by colleges and universities as AP and IB is. We wanted to also share some assessment trends. And when we look at this, we do see a positive trend. Now, we're not saying that our work is finished here, but overall, when you look at AP, we have seen some growth and improvement in the last few years. Now, that's not without some notes that are important to point out. For one, due to COVID complications in 2020 and 2021, exams were modified greatly. In 2020, major sections were cut out. They were all taken at home. They were all computer-based. Last year, the modifications continued. They weren't as heavily modified. But again, students had the option to take it home in school. We set up a structure to have kids take it in school as much as possible so that we can try to make sure that they had the access they need and the testing conditions that they might take it a bit more seriously. So though we see improvements, we also have to put that in because we want to be honest. It's a little hard to predict because those scores were very different than in years past. The conditions and the exams were a bit different. There's also a misnomer that we've eliminated AP US history. That's indeed not the case. Students didn't test in AP US last year, and that's simply because we resequenced our courses. Our students were taking 3 years of European history. We wanted to change that. They're now taking, they have the opportunity in IB, for instance, or AP to take History of America or AP US. In order to do that, our students were given, back then, the AP US exam in freshman year. It is not a course that's suitable for 9th graders. We wanted to move it to 11th grade. When you have the majority of the class taken in 9th grade, you have to wait until those 9th and 10th graders become juniors and seniors. Currently, our freshmen and sophomores have not taken AP US or US history. They will take US history next year. They will have the option and the opportunity to take IB, History of the Americas, and to access the AP US history. So all students will have or have had the opportunity to avail themselves of the exam at AP US. So I do want to clarify that. I know that that's something that's gone about. What are the distinctions? When we look at it, a student who takes 3 or higher and scores a 3 or higher and 3 AP exams is an AP scholar. And that runs the gamut to students who are AP scholar with distinction, which is a student who has scored at least 3.5 on 5 or higher exams. But look, this is a very high level of success. Students are taking the most challenging courses they can, and we have quite a few who are recognized as AP scholars. I know that's also come up in the community that there was a fabricated distinction called IB scholars. And that's something that, as soon as we know that that was not something we wanted to continue, though we recognized that we wanted to honor students when we could, it was something that we felt was a misnomer, and we eliminated. Our success, what is the measure of success? Is it anecdotal? So here are some comments from students who took AP. We recently sent out a survey to graduates. We send out surveys every year to graduates and ask about their experience. In this one, we asked, in addition to the normal feedback, we asked about their experiences in AP and IB, and they were positive. AP, because of these courses, I was able to graduate a year early. That's a lot of savings. Taking AP environmental tests saved me from taking any science classes in college and on. I won't read this all to you. You're welcome.
The presentation will be on our website tomorrow also, so for anybody who wants to see the slides and see the numbers, I know it's difficult to see from the screen or from the audience, this will be online.
So we look at assessment trends in IB as well, positive trends overall. But again, caveats. Due to the COVID disruptions in 2020 and 2021, IB assessment grades. So there was IB called it the non-exam route. It was a poor terminology. It really should have been the non-external exam route. The internal assessments, which students were creating over time, were still factored in, and students' grades were determined based on internal assessments, but also there was a formula for historical data to ensure that schools were not inflating or artificially deflating their scores. They had to stay within a realm of the historical trends that we saw over time with IB data. Again, we look at these scores and we do offer asterisks because there are positive trends and we've seen some significant differences, but the tests have definitely been different in AP and IB over the last 2 years. The question often arises, what is the measure of an IB student? Is it an IB diploma? And I'm going to say no. No. An IB diploma requires a student to take 6 IB subjects over the course of 2 years. IB is only available in 11th and 12th grade. Student also has to write an extended essay, participate in other coursework, including service activities. It is a very challenging program that requires the stamina over 2 years of time. That is not suitable for every 16 and 17-year-old. What is a measure is how successful are the students who take on that challenge and decide they want to do that. And we look over time, and again, the last 2 years, we had COVID-related. The students who enter the IB program walk out overall, who want to be diploma candidates, walk out with diplomas quite frequently. Next 2 years, we are seeing our highest numbers since 2010. So the enrollment for IB candidates has gone up in a number we haven't seen in 12 years. So there is definitely a trend in the direction where we have more students who are ready. Some more anecdotes from IB students. We have a student who talks about graduating early, skipping an entire freshman year requirements. We talk about advanced standing and college and career aspects that students can get. So we look at the class of 2022, AP and IB enrollment. For students who've taken one course, just one, AP or IB, we're talking 79% of the students in our senior class. That's significant. Again, access to the most challenging coursework, the most rich dialogue, even for students who sometimes struggle, having one of those experiences can be life-changing. And we want students to have that experience. And as you look, and when you talk about it being inclusive, 50% of our students have taken 6 or more AP or IB courses. And there's 163 students in the class of 2022. In terms of dual enrollment, what do we offer? Previous to this year we now have 22 dual enrollment offerings. The previous year was 8. And I want to credit the high school team for all of its work and its work with the colleges and the universities here as we're really trying to forge partnerships and we see the benefit for students. They range from drawing and painting and coding to AP, calculus, and pre-calculus. So the question is, if students take an AP, why would you need to take dual enrollment? Because the student could wind up with college credit. Or why are they paying a couple $100s to get that credit? The reality is it offers a safety net. Again, AP, a student could pass the course and fail the exam and not be eligible for college credit. A student who takes an AP calculus, for instance, and passes the course, fails the exam, but is dually enrolled, can get college credit from Long Island University that can transfer. It offers a safety net. It encourages students to take on the challenge. We recently had some pretty nice news in Newsday. I don't know if you saw the article. but the graphic is there. Looking at AP and IB performance, so the performance is based on seniors, the number of tests per senior passing and participating. So the number one, for us, we ranked 13th on Long Island in terms of achievement. So 3.06 per senior passed an AP or IB exam last year. 4.65 participated. And in the past, again, participation is important, but the achievement is there as well when we have that. So we ranked very high. That doesn't mean that we're satisfied with that. We certainly want to see those numbers trend high, but it is encouraging. Our students attend a multitude of colleges. I did improve the graphic. If you have this, and it'll be on the website, you can see. A few years ago, there were questions about where are our graduates going. They're not going to Ivy League schools, and that's not true. Again, credit to the entire district and certainly the high school team and Ms. Villa and her team as well, Mr. DiClemente and all that work together in sitting up here at this table. Our students go to Dartmouth, they go to Columbia, they go to MIT. They're going to the most challenging colleges there are. They're going to Brown. We have students who got accepted early decision to Brown. So the question often is what's the metric? What's the measure? Is it Brown? For that student, it is. That student who puts in for early decision and says, this is the school I love and I want to go to. But for the student who's saying, I really love and want to go to Pace because it fits me, then that's the metric of success because he or she gets in for early decision. And that's the story here. When we look here, we have students going to very challenging colleges, but we also have kids going to schools that fit them. And in our district, we get to individualize that and help them to reach and find the place that makes sense for them. Or if they wish to go into the military or the trades, again, to be able to support that. There are costs associated with the program. When we look at the breakdown in a snapshot, is you're looking at approximately $166,000 this year for International Baccalaureate Program. We're also looking, which includes course fees, an annual fee, professional development, subject matter coordinator, and on. And for advanced placement, we're looking at exam fees, and we're looking at professional development as well. So the question also comes up, why don't we have a coordinator for advanced placement? Again, the program doesn't necessitate that we do. We have someone who's a testing coordinator and does coordinate that as well. Should the district ever decide that it wants to go to pathway of what they call the AP Capstone program, which is a newer program. It was launched in 2014, and there's some schools that are visiting that. And it's a diploma program in response, I think, more so to the IB diploma. That is something that would cost more money as well. But quite simply, we have more IB courses than AP courses, and so the cost is elevated. Looking here, where are we going? What's next? The Carnegie Foundation gave New York State Education Department received a grant for reimagining education, and 3 of the pathways that they're strongly considering as models to supplant the current graduation measures are those with a solid CTE program, those who follow the consortium school model, which is mainly a New York City-based model, and those that are IB districts. So there is the potential that the IB diploma or pathway of some of the coursework would replace Regents exams. So we're excited to see what evolves there. There's more to come based on that. And we want to review accessibility of courses. Do we offer enough courses where students can be successful at all levels? Advanced placement, we want to expand offerings in 9th and 10th grade. We've had discussions about things such as can we put an art class in 9th grade, in 10th grade, can we look at music theory, so on, so that we give students as much opportunity as possible to do advanced level work where we can meet them. And dual enrollment, you've heard me talk about artificial intelligence, introduction to AI. We now have on-campus research opportunities where students can go and work at LIU over the summer and get science research, so we're bolstering those things. These are some of the questions that came up, and I hope that some of them are a little inherent in what we talked about. What would occur if we only offered AP and IB? I think at the end of the day, we're limiting choices and options. Both programs are challenging and well respected. In the same respect, they're different approaches, and they suit different children differently. So we would be limiting those opportunities. If we continue our program the way it is in the next 5 years, it becomes a question, are we causing too much strain? We have students who have to make choices, and if we want to do that. But we're looking at a trend in a positive direction. We're looking at more students getting enrolled and getting involved. We're better at assessing data and analyzing it. we continue to see that our students move forward and strongly. I think the development of the portrait of the graduate, and you're going to hear me reference that 2 or 3 times in this slide, is going to determine that. What do we value? What is the metric we determine is this community values and we want to see a Locust Valley graduate aspire to? If we only partner with local colleges, we would find that students wouldn't be able to get into the most selective schools. Because again, AP and IB are the gold standards and heavily measured in that respect. How does each program work towards college credit? I think I've described that. It's really based on test scores, and the AP and IB dual enrollment is based on a course score. Students are notified their scores of AP and IB in July. If they're going to transfer credits into college or university, it's ample time for them to do that. Each college and university has a system for them to do that. There is weighting. The weighting is 1.15 for IB HL and AP courses, 1.125 for IB SL courses, and 1.1 for honors courses. We do have honors courses in 9th and 10th grade, and they also are available in courses in 11th and 12th, but not in every course. If we look at physics, for instance, or chemistry, or pre-calculus courses that students could use as graduation requirements, those are honors-based courses and have an option as well. Again, the metric of success I indicated, I believe that that's a community decision. What do we measure as success? We have anecdotal information, we have test data, we have Newsdays data as well. We have the college data. We have multiple measures to see that students are successful here, but I believe that has to be formalized a bit more with the portrait of the graduate. Finally, what other programs could we implement? We don't really know of any. We talked about this at length. There really is not much that is comparable in terms of AP and IB. However, when we're looking at diversifying course offerings, absolutely. We're looking more at college, at technical career aspects. Can we offer an HVAC program? Can we offer more business offerings, engineering, biomedical? So looking at more of those types of electives and opportunities, those are things we would like to dig into. I've talked a lot. We are here and we have an amazing team. We've loved these conversations. They've been important. We've delved more deeply into things because of it. So we're here to answer questions. Feel free if you want to.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Davidson. Does any of the coordinators, directors, chairpersons want to add anything? Okay, we'll open it up for questions from the board. Trustee Steele?
You ready?
I don't know.
Okay, I think out of everything, I'm still most confused about dual enrollment. On the first slide, open enrollment, I got a whole bunch for you. Are you sure you're ready? Open enrollment. In terms of dual enrollment, you've listed several options of courses that students can take. So for instance, I'm confused why IB and AP are listed under dual enrollment. I understand, but I think we need to finesse the way we talk about financing that. The list of them, say I wanted to enter into drawing and painting. How does that conversation go in terms of enrolling into that? And do the courses happen solely here? Solely happen here on campus?
Sure. So yes, they happen here on our campus. And basically, when we engage in a partnership with a college, they ask us to send our curriculum and our course information, and then they decide whether or not the curriculum that we deliver to our students aligns with something that they have on the college level. So for a course like drawing and painting, they identify that this does align with a college level course and that they would be able to grant college credit, because if a student was on their campus, they would be able to take something similar for college credit. The way in which students are informed about dual enrollment is that we have a counselor who's dedicated as our dual enrollment coordinator, and she goes into the classes and she delivers the information with the teacher to talk about, all of the different options that a student may have to earn college credit. So for a course like drawing and painting, this course does not culminate in an AP or an IB exam, so this would be the only way, let's say. You also mentioned IB and AP courses, where students would have potentially multiple ways of being able to earn college credit. dual enrollment being one, and the score that they receive on their culminating exam as another option.
Okay, so let me clarify, because if AP and IB, if their credits are taken by a whole host of other universities and colleges, I have to admit here, I was the beneficiary of that. I don't understand why St. John's and LIU would say pay up for additional credits. That seems like a scam.
So it gives students two opportunities. We do have students who feel that I would like to be able to give myself the opportunity of being awarded for the course credit that I take throughout the year. There are some students who, although they're going to be taking an end of the year assessment, they may know that they have to get a 3, or for some colleges a 4 on an exam that's the highest score of a 5 in order to earn college credit. So if I'm a student who I'm not sure how well I would perform on that exam at the end of the year, but I know that I work really hard throughout the year and my grades are typically in the A and B range, students are going to receive a college transcript at the end, despite what their score could be on the AP or IB exam. So it gives them another avenue of being able to earn the credit.
Okay, a lot of implications with that too. Another follow-up with the dual enrollment. Are our teachers provided with additional support and professional development in teaching those courses that are for dual enrollment?
So depending on the college, St. John's does offer a professional development day for our teachers to be able to go to a conference to learn about the course and the guide and get information. LIU offers teachers the opportunity of having a partnership with a college professor so that they can have that, it's like a, it's escaping me, where they can come in and a college professor can actually enhance an instruction or a lesson that the teacher determines to be something that they're interested in. So there are benefits to our teaching staff to have this program that enhances the instruction or could enhance the instruction.
Thank you. Can I keep going? Yeah. All right, thank you. On assessment trends for AP, if we're going to post this, can we also post, because, and I want to thank Lauren for this, when we had this conversation back in October with the data, we also featured the national and local New York State levels. Can we please post those along with our averages? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Next up, you have a lot of positivity for both AP and IB in the thoughts from recent alumni. There were no criticisms?
There were minimal, of both programs.
Okay, I would like to see those also posted.
Okay.
Thank you. Why are there missing exams on the assessment trends for IB?
There are some exams that we had students who took 3. The N was not significant, so that's something we can indicate. All assessments were that there was an average N of at least 10. There were many exams where we had 2 or 3 kids who took an exam. That also happens with AP. We have students who take walk-in. Not every district allows that. We have students who will take an exam, even if they didn't take the course and they choose to do that. We'll actually offer them support to do that as well. But we can include those as well.
Okay, because this is an extensively short list in comparison to what you presented in October, so I think we should also post that as well.
I think, Mr. Steele, the assessment data and presentation is under board presentations. It was on October 19th, so that's up there already.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to repeat it. All right,
I do
got
think that
more.
it should be shown in its entirety because, like tonight is a public work session just for this. People may not have known that there was a different type of presentation in October, and I think that it is a little misleading. I'm on the board, and I actually, reached out today to ask about other data. So I think it's important for the public to see it all in one place.
Next up, the class of 2022 student enrollment AP and IB. What do the numbers look like for the class of 2023 in terms of enrollment?
Enrollment in AP and IB.
That's correct. And dual enrollment. I love dual enrollment. I want to hear more.
The students are registering right now for those courses, so I don't have that data as of yet.
You don't have the data for AP or IB?
For students who are currently, the class of 22, 23,
Yeah, I mean, they're in IB and AP classes now.
but some of the students are not. We have students who They can take SL courses, they can change that as well, but I can get that data.
We have the number of diploma candidates for 2023. Is that? what you're interested
No,
in
I
knowing?
wanted the breakdown by one course, two course. I sound like Dr. Seuss, but the numbers of courses over and over.
But we wouldn't have that data yet.
I think we would have data of juniors that are enrolled in one IB course versus two IB courses if you have the 2-year program. No?
We could, that's just a different presentation, right? This information is presented as a function of the senior class. We could do it
Oh,
of the
I
junior
thought it was
class
all
as well.
encompassing. IB economics, is that SL or HL right now? SL. SL? Can you take that in your junior year? Yes. So theoretically, you could take an advanced dual enrollment class for your senior year in advanced economics, no?
No. I mean, the SL, yes.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
If you really enjoyed economics in your junior year, could you not take a sponsored course by LIU or St. John's for your senior year in advanced econ?
Do we have that? I don't believe we have that partnership at this time.
Well, that's my curiosity here,
Right.
is like, could we extend
Yes,
it?
absolutely.
Okay. And can we also get numbers at some point of the non-listed AP and IB courses, the additional courses, where students are enrolled in dual enrollment in the future, when you have those numbers?
Okay.
And I think, yes, not to give you all too much work. Our students attend with the long list of universities and colleges. Is it possible that we can get an estimate of how many of these institutions award credit based on our courses and how they have awarded in the past? I know that's an extensive amount of work, but finding out which of these institutions award how much credit based on the courses our students take would be extraordinarily rewarding.
Okay.
Is that something we could do?
We can certainly look into that. It's very difficult to assess, but we can definitely see.
I appreciate that.
You know, one of the things that we were talking about potentially doing is, Ms. Villa was talking about the graduating seniors survey that we do. You know, we thought maybe we could work that into soliciting that information from the students. You know, when you went to University X, did you receive credit for AP whatever, or IB, or a transcript from St. John's, let's say? So that's something we could ask, and then we could work, I think, concurrently to that on how to acquire that information from the colleges and universities.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. And I think the advantage to getting that information directly from our alumni is that colleges award credit based on several different factors, based on the score a student receives, the college they're applying to, the major within the college that they're applying to. They could award it as science credit or elective credit based on the major. So we can be very specific with that survey and ask students those specific questions, and that's something that we're definitely going to build in.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Steele?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else on the board? Trustee Themis?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Davidson. Just to piggyback firstly on Sean's comments about the credit, as an elementary school mom, I don't have a lot, not well versed in the AP and IB, but when doing some research online, it was very simple to find answers to, how do students receive college credit for AP courses. Most colleges have metrics. If you get X, Y, and Z, you get credit for your AP classes. It seemed as if it was an easier transition to college credit, where I guess in the world of IB, I got a lot of, well, you might get credit, you may get credit, you could get credit. Can you shed some light, I guess, on how the IB courses translate to college credit, or really is it more of a curriculum for high school that is just more challenging? I'm trying to make the distinction between the two.
Well, when you look at the curriculum, and I'll talk about that, there is some studies done on the skills being more translatable with IB in terms of the amount of writing and research that students are required to do. However, when you look at credit, it really does depend on the school. There is a link that I can Amplify that does talk a bit about what many of the colleges do accept relative to IB credits and courses. So I don't know, I mean, do you want to talk about if there's distinct differences in what would accept, or?
No, I think just, and maybe Angela can kind of touch on this, we have college representatives and directors come and speak to us very frequently, and we ask this question all the time. AP or IB, which one do you prefer? Which one do you accept more often? And all of the schools that we asked, and I think we had 3 or 4 just represented on Thursday night, said AP or IB. Their scores are different because the height of each of those is different, but they say AP or IB. We accept them in the same way. Here's the metrics that we use. So especially for our local colleges and our colleges that our students are frequenting, they know the program very well, they're able to speak to it, and they're able to say that they accept AP or IB credits. In terms of dual enrollment, you might not see that as clearly because there's not certain grades necessarily, but you will find information on their transfer credits. Because when a student has a transcript from LIU or St. John's, that's actually used as transfer credit. So that's a different section of their website, but that will also give you a little bit of an insight into whether those LIU and St. John's credits are transferring for our students.
And we've noticed that most of those LIU and St. John's credits have been accepted throughout all the other universities and colleges. Are we having any issues with them trying to transfer those credits?
So this is our first year of our partnership with LIU, and so this current group of seniors will be our first students that we're able to ask that question to, but for St. John's, we have found that our students are getting college credit for those courses.
Okay.
I would like to just add on to what Michelle said. At our IB information session this week, our 3 college admissions reps did say that yes, AP, IB, we accept both with caveats on scores, of course. But what they also included was that the transferable skills that our students get from the IB program, writing and research, communication skills, they find that those students are at the top of their game. They really do have a je ne sais quoi quality about them that goes to college with them and beyond, that don't get measured in an exam.
Sure. Are we doing anything to bring that je ne sais quoi to the masses, to the rest of the students? It sounds like a great program, the way it's taught, the way students have more autonomy to learn. And I think, are we missing out by, we have students taking an IB class here or there. Mm-hmm. Is this way of learning, forget IB, but just something that our instructors and our educators should be bringing to the way we teach students?
So one of the things, and I don't want to get technical, but one of the terms that we talk about is performance-based assessment. So it's a real-world assessment, projects over time, measuring kids' process, not just the outcome, not just the test. So that's definitely been a district initiative and something that we've discussed as academic leaders that we want to see more from K through 12. So the short answer is absolutely yes. And you looked at it, and I'm going to put Mr. Sarandri on the spot, but he worked with IB classes last year. He worked with second graders on working on civic-minded projects. Do you want to talk a bit about that, Mr. Sarandri, as an example of how it's something that is extending out into the district?
Sure. So last year, one of the more exciting things that we did in our IB economics class, actually, as part of the government requirement for that course, is that the senior class teamed up with the second grade class. Second grade class kind of brainstormed local community issues that they had noticed, ranging from like litter on the beach to wanting a new playground in town. And then the seniors were able to do some research. They looked into kind of who would be the most appropriate politicians or elected officials to speak to about that. How would one go about trying to bring about that change? And then they met, the second grade and 12th grade classes, they met, they got together, they came up with plans and proposals, and they were actually able then to present them forward to the appropriate elected officials, and even got some nice feedback from Mayor DiNatale and a few other of the local officials. So that's real world learning that we were able to incorporate, and one of the things that we'd like to do is incorporate those types of activities throughout all of our courses, even down through middle school.
And when we talk about, you'll hear a lot about performance-based assessment. The state has been very clear. It's trending in that direction and looking to redefine the regencies and whether or not to eliminate regencies. And that there's a lot forthcoming this summer relative to what the expectations will be.
Now, just a question, if the board doesn't mind if I keep going. Okay. On the expenses, for the IB expenses, are the majority of these expenses only for the diploma candidates, or are they kind of across all of the IB courses, or are there certain line items that only apply to those going through the diploma program?
It's all for students who are in IB period. So you can take one IB course and take the exam, for instance.
Okay.
The teacher training is for you, even if you've taken one IB course the whole time that you're in high school. So no, they span all of it. It's not only for the diploma candidates.
But things like the extended essay coordinator, the CAS coordinator,
Yeah, those would be, the extended essay, absolutely, for students striving to be an IB diploma candidate.
and then the subject matter coordinator.
Subject matter coordinator extends for all students. That's Angela, and again, she's there for professional development. She's there to help us with processing the exams, to help us review curriculum, complete self-studies, present to the community, work with students, coach students. I mean, she meets with them individually. Students are like, I can't do this. They're in Angela's office. So
Right.
there's a lot of support.
And the student mentors, that line item is strictly for the diploma candidates.
That's true, yes.
Okay.
How many kids does that $166,000 cover?
It's funny, Angela and I talked today. I believe it was 248 this year? 245.
245, but out of that 245, how many take more than 2 courses?
Do you know offhand?
Okay.
I'm not sure offhand. We can find out.
And the AP for $39,000, that's just, how many kids does that cover?
I believe it was about 150, give or take, but I can find that out.
And usually, on average, a student is taking 3, 4 AP courses, kind of, because there's no honors past 11th grade pretty much in the
It
core.
depends on the discipline, but not across the board. There's no
Right,
English
but once you
honors.
hit 11th grade,
Mhm.
the core subjects don't offer honors, so the student has a choice of AP or IB. So the
Right.
majority of the students go into, for the bulk of their coursework in 11th and 12th grade, they go into AP. Would that be?
Into 11th, 12th, I would say the bulk go into IB, actually, and take some AP offerings.
The majority of their
No, the
coursework is in
majority of
IB?
students- No.
Okay.
That's inaccurate. The
Okay.
majority of students would be taking on-level courses.
I'm sorry, I
Would
can't.
take on-level courses. They're not necessarily taking AP and IB exclusively.
So the choices in 11th and 12th grade are on-level, AP, or IB?
Yes.
Okay.
And as far as the history goes, you mentioned before they're taking U.S. history in 11th, but they're either taking AP U.S. history or
No.
IB history of the Americas?
No, the AP U.S. history would be aligned with IB history of Americas. So it would be a.
But that's what
course
I'm
in-
asking. They're taking one or the other?
They're actually taking both,
Both.
yes. The course requirements for AP U.S. history do align with IB HODA. It also aligns with the U.S. history regents, which they're required to take in 11th grade anyway. So students would have access to both of those in the one.
But I know they have access to both, but they're not taking both courses. They're taking one or the other?
They're taking IB history of Americas.
And then they can take the AP exam.
Right.
Well, I'm confused
But they're
here.
not taking the AP coursework,
They're not taking the AP course, no.
right?
So there really is no AP U.S. history?
And that's something that we could add. It would have students that would move out that pathway of the IB.
I'm just,
Well,
I'm sorry.
my concern with the history of Americas is that it's actually not really American history. And this isn't an American organization. IB is International Baccalaureate. The past 20 months has taught me as an adult that many adults don't understand basic governance and basic American history, basic laws, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. And my concern is that we are not offering that type of learning past 8th grade. Would that be accurate?
No, I don't agree with that. And students do have a choice to take U.S. history in 11th grade, but
It's a choice, though.
But HODA does incorporate much of the founding of our nation as well. I don't know, Mr. Rangi, if you want to talk a bit about
But
the content.
from a perspective, with all due respect, from a perspective of an international
I
viewpoint.
don't
I'm-
agree. I would say it was from multiple viewpoints, but not necessarily.
So International Baccalaureate teaches the history of American history from an American viewpoint? Is what you would say?
Mr. Serrata, do you want to talk a bit about the course content?
Sure, I'd say that, just to generalize it, the IB history course emphasizes the United States history piece in terms of the creation of our government, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Articles of Confederation, like that whole progression. However, one of the differences between that and, let's say, an AP is that in IB, you're also then comparing it in the region to the development of governments in that region. Whereas in AP, the emphasis has moved towards viewing the creation of the government from different perspectives of that time, concentrated in the United States, of course, but also looking at how other countries may have been viewing what's going on in the United States, countries in Europe and things like that. That's one of the historical thinking pieces that's incorporated in both AP and IB. It's just, there are subtle differences, though, in the lens that you're looking at it through.
I don't remember all the data from October, but I do remember that, I think it was government politics. Is that an AP course?
I have it right here.
Oh, I'm pretty sure the passing rate was 0? Was it
Zero.
It was 0, yeah.
Out of
That's
20.
a major concern. Out of 20 kids who took it, that's a major concern. Some of that was chalked up to seniors take that course, and they're kind of checked out, and especially in the past 2 years, we've lost a lot of interest in school with the situation of how school operates in these times. But still, I really go back to I have a major concern, and I Anthony, I know that we were in agreement, and I agreed with you moving AP history from 9th grade to where it rightly belongs, but I never thought that then it would be a choice.
But there isn't a choice. There is no AP curriculum. Is that correct, that I can't take AP US History? I can take the exam,
Correct.
but I cannot take AP US History in this district.
That is correct.
Okay.
So it's not offered, as you stated earlier. They can only take IB, History of the Americas, and can sit for the exam, for the AP US History exam. So we are not teaching AP US History in this school.
There is.
And we had one person last year take the US History AP exam. One. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here, that the information is correct. So there is no AP US History. We offer the test for somebody that wants to take it, and we're only offering the general course, which is what? What would, if you didn't take IB, History of the Americas?
US history.
That's
You'd
the
take US.
alternative. If you're not on the IB track, you would take,
Right.
and that's US History or History of the Americas?
It's US history.
And so what percentage of the student body is taking US History, and what percentage is taking the IB History of the Americas?
Students are enrolling as we speak, so we will have those
Okay,
numbers.
last year.
Do you know? It didn't exist, but, right.
You didn't have,
We didn't have history.
We're in the middle of, this is the last year of our resequencing of the social studies courses, so we haven't had the traditional grade cohort all taking US history at the same time since the 1920 school year.
so we moved it to 11th grade and then eliminated it.
It's an AP IB course, though. The IB History of
But it's
Americas is
not
alive with
US
AP.
history. I just want to
Right,
make
but
sure that we
it's
have a
predominantly
very clear
US
understanding. We
history.
moved it to 11th grade
It's
and then
predom-
eliminated the coursework.
It's predominantly US history, and it's a course that covers 2 years as opposed to 1.
I have to say, I didn't know that.
Okay.
I'm very upset about that, and I did not know that. And even earlier today, you made a comment, like reassuring. I understood the comment earlier that we did still have it. I was actually happy that you corrected that. So now I understand that we don't have it. Lauren, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you have
No,
more
not
questions?
at all.
Okay.
No.
I just want to start my questioning by first saying that Angela Manzo, I went to your end of the year IP, I don't know what celebration. And I told you that night that you have a connection with the children. It was clear that they loved you, they loved working with you, they liked working with each other. It was also clear it was very difficult coursework. And I think every single one of them had that gripe as a negative. One thing that I did enjoy very much, because I also was trained in the younger grades with school-wide enrichment and Talents Unlimited coming out of UConn with the Renzulis, is that each student was able to get up there and explain what type of learner that they are. And I thought that that was beautiful. I also thought it was sad that only a select group of kids get to graduate this beautiful school, really understanding what type of learner they are. And to you, Mr. Sarandria, I'm listening to the project-based learning project, and I think that's fantastic. I don't think that it is only happening or able to happen in an IB world. My daughter is in 5th grade, and she's doing project-based learning part of the year. They integrated into the regular learning day, and everything that you described is what a 5th grader is doing. So I know that it's capable, it can happen. I know that project-based learning is fantastic. I know that's the trend that New York State is going towards. I think there's real life practical skills that come out of project-based learning. I think school-wide enrichment is also very important. I don't believe, as a former special ed teacher, working in Syosset schools, my classes were included in the school-wide enrichment. My students understood what type of learners they were, and they were able to get up and speak to that. So my concern with IB is that there is a fallacy around it, that it's the only vehicle in which students are able to learn how to be self-directed, time management, challenged, use metacognitive skills. It's really, to me, that's a fallacy, because if you could bring those skill sets without the IB program attached to it and the costs that are attached to it, you could bring that to a whole school. So that's my feeling about it. I think that AP in today's world, where some colleges are $70,000, and people have more than 1 or 2 kids that they have to put through school, sometimes 2 or 3 at the same time, I think that AP and dual enrollment offers an unbelievable advantage to our students who are willing to put the time in. And I think that there needs to be a really good understanding with people having children coming into the high school, that this opportunity is out there and that it opens up the college years for their students. You could graduate early, you can open up your schedule and have dual majors or an extra minor, because you've taken almost a half a year's worth of credits here at Locust Valley High School that'll transfer to your freshman year. I don't think that that's really articulated that well, to be honest with you. And my last comment is, I have a real concern for the middle of the road kid. Maybe that's because I just raised 2. But they don't graduate here feeling that they are educationally capable. And I'm not just speaking for my own 2 children. I had the privilege of being with 17 recent graduates throughout the week of Christmas week. They happen to all be males. And they're all doing different things, and they're all finding their path, and they're doing great. But the conversation at the dinner table every night revolved around self-doubt and loss of self-esteem. And I think a lot of that comes from this push. I think, Amy, years ago, you had a video that you brought to something like the Race to Nowhere. Do you remember that? Yeah, the Race to Nowhere. And, you know, sometimes, we're talking about, talking to 6th graders, what are you going to be when you grow up? I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, and I'm 52. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying we're putting undue pressures on our kids, and I think that all the kids have to know that there's a spot for them here. And when you only are talking about AP and IB and dual enrollment, you're losing a whole section of the kids that feel lost. They feel lost on a lot of different levels. And I've had this conversation, I think, Ken, it was one of the first conversations you and I had. I've had this conversation with Patrick. I think I've had it with you, Anthony, about my own children. But it's not just my own children that I'm speaking of. I think that there's a wide swath of kids. And I think that's also why we see a lot of kids not make it past freshman year in this town. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know if we're allocating our resources in the right direction. I don't know if we're doing either AP or IB excellent or great. So I have a lot of questions. I appreciate this report, but I don't see a lot of growth from Kieran McGuire's report 4 years ago to now in the test scores, and that's concerning too. I do have a question for you. Did we already pay for this year's IB testing before we know if it's going to happen or not? Is that like a yearly? Do we pay that up front?
Yes.
Yes. So the last 2 times we paid for tests that nobody took.
There were course fees, and they were based on adjudication of the internal assessments.
Okay.
So that's what the cost was for.
Because my understanding is IB is not computerized, so they can't take the test.
No, and they're not, because it's harder to take performance assessments and to computerize them. It's easier to computerize multiple choice or essay-type responses than the type of assessments that IB gives.
No, I understand that. But there is no, there used to be an IB test, right? Like, they used to happen in May.
Yeah, they have external assessments. Nancy,
Okay.
do you want to talk a bit more about the assessments?
Yeah.
Thank you. So the IB is careful on how they word things. So they have course fees, not exam fees. The course fees have to do with the moderators and the graders from IB who grade our student work. And over the past 2 years, because we did not give exams here, those moderators had to grade all of our internal assessments. So let's say about 245 students worth of work from multiple exams. In years past, when we have an external assessment, those moderators only look at a sample of our work. So the IB kept those course fees in order to pay their graders to grade worldwide assessments, probably about 90% more work than they have in the past. So those course fees stayed. For this year, we have paid those course fees already, because whether or not there are sit-down exams in May, we still will be paying moderators to grade those internal assessments. And if exams do happen, then they will grade those internal assessments and grade those external assessments with no increased fee. So the fee is what the fee is.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good.
So can I piggyback on a question that Margaret had? And I'm a little limited as, on secondary, as a secondary ed, but you made a comment about the teaching of skills, right? Can you talk about the difference in skills acquisition between the two programs? Like, why IB?
So I can speak to IB. I can't speak to AP, because the last time I looked at an AP class, I was a senior in high school, and I won't tell you how many years ago that was. So the integral part of the IB program is the student. At the center of their logo is the student, and it's the student through a continuum of learning. It's not just about 11th and 12th grade. It can be an entire, from elementary school to middle school to high school. And the skills that are taught in an IB class, of course, can be taught in another class. These aren't exclusive to IB, but we find them more prevalent in IB courses because of the performance-based assessments that Mr. Davidson is talking about. We're talking about students giving individual orals on works of literature that they've read, and they're comparing and contrasting. We're talking about them finding central themes in characters between maybe something that they read about in a foreign language class and something that they're reading about in a literature class. We're talking about them making connections in environmental systems and societies to their history course or to the psychology course, and how we interact with our environment around us. So the interdisciplinary aspect of IB, I think, is a really strong part of the program. I don't want to say that AP does not have that. I can't speak to that. But that is a really integral part, is that these courses are not supposed to be taught in silos. Our teachers do not teach in silos. It should be a collaborative process between student to student, student to teacher, and teacher to teacher. So I think seeing that collaboration from a 16-year-old perspective is that my teachers are talking about a project that I'm doing, and my teachers are trying to make these lessons more engaging for me, are really important, that they're seeing that collaboration not just happen with them, but they're seeing it elsewhere as well, and understanding that collaboration is continuous. How many decisions do any of us make alone? Right? When we're talking about the big decisions and big projects that we have at work, like, we did this presentation together. Nobody sat alone and did this presentation. So the communication skills, students being able to go and speak to their teacher about something, or that they have to do a presentation to their whole class. There are some IB courses where it states a presentation must be made in front of their peers. That's a requirement. Get public speaking, getting over that fear of public speaking in a controlled and safe environment is super important. And we've had our teachers make accommodations for our students. Maybe that group is only 3 of my peers. Maybe that group is 20 of my peers. I also think that the writing and research involved in IB is probably the biggest difference that I would say from AP. So in every IB course, there's something called an internal assessment. It looks different in each course. But in every course, there is writing. I taught IB math for years. They have to write an internal assessment. It's about a 12-page math paper. And it's not on the history of math. It's on a subject that they're interested in, that they pick, they design the research question, they go find the research, and then they write about it. And they apply it to something that they're interested in. I had a student last year write an IB internal assessment on the location of hospitals in the North Shore healthcare system, why they're located where they were, and if they were located there mathematically. That I can't say that that's going to happen in too many other classes. Could it? Sure. It could.
I'm listening to you, and I'm saying to myself, why can't this happen in other classes? Why can't there be
It absolutely
interdisciplinary-
can. But what I'm saying is that by offering the IB program, it reaches so many of our kids. And it's just a really positive experience for our kids to start doing that writing and research. Can it happen? Yes, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't. Like, why can't it happen in 9th grade? Why can't it happen in 10th grade? But the fact that these students are being recognized and rewarded for that hard work, potentially at the college credit level and the college readiness level, I think is super important. There was part of my presentation was that 79% of IB candidates, not necessarily IB diploma candidates, but IB students in general, graduate college in 4 years. We're only 40%, about 40% of the general population graduate college in 4 years. That's a big difference. That shows the college readiness. That shows perhaps that they got some credit from their IB courses that allowed them to be successful in 4 years. I was a 5-year college graduate. I'm okay. It's not an end-all be-all, but I think it's a really important statistic, and I think it's a really important thing to talk about their college readiness. And I do believe that the IB program does that.
But would it be fair to say then that it's not necessarily a program that's going to make us have those skills? Not necessarily a program, right? Because even on the elementary level, we're seeing some of that high-level thinking stuff that's happening through the reading and writing project. So I don't necessarily think it's IB that's going to provide that skills-based work for them. I think it's our teachers that are doing it in whatever the curriculum might be, or if it's AP, IB.
Of course. It comes from our students, prepared by our teachers. So it's the only way for them to be successful is if they're working together.
Okay. To the other end of the table. Trustee Vesaliu or Trustee Deltato?
Just a couple of quick questions for you. First, as a parent of a little one, and it seems to be getting faster and faster, this is kind of coming up even though it's years away. Can you provide a little more color on the discussion that occurs, right? AP, my understanding is students can start taking AP coursework in 9th grade, right? How does that conversation occur between faculty and the students and the families? How does it get introduced? How do we open those subjects up? What does that look like a little bit?
Patrick or Michelle?
Sure. So I can speak pretty directly to our 8th grade because we just are embarking on that process right now. So in the beginning of December, we finalize our course selection guide, and we send it out to the families along with a course selection sheet, which basically lists by department all of the different options. And they're able to kind of go toggle between the guide, which lists prerequisites and a description and kind of gives them all that information. That's kind of how the process starts in the beginning of December. And then we have our parents come in for a night. So we just had it last week, all 8th grade parents, to hear from each of the department leaders on what are the differences in the choices that your child has to make. So it's really great information. You know, Mr. Sarandra was up there saying, these are your child's choices in social studies for next year. These are the differences between the two courses. Students who are receiving these types of scores and this type of feedback, this might be the best option for them. And then we have course advisement week. So last week was course advisement week, where we encourage our teachers to have conversations with their students about their options for next year, what good selections might be for them. And then between yesterday and Monday, or today and yesterday, our counselors went into each 8th grade class and had conversations with students about their options, and then individually we'll work with them one-on-one to complete their selections for next year. A very similar process happens as we get through the high school and also in the middle school. So next step would be to do that with our 6th graders, who will be making decisions for 7th grade next year.
And then the other question is sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum, more for you all. If we want to, aside from what the community may envision as a graduate, right, whatever that straw person looks like, what do you need from the district, from us, from Ken, from the, to make the program or programs, right? What do you not have that's holding back the programs? What do you not have, not necessarily in terms of resources, it could be resources, but how do we move the programs to sort of that, you know, moving that Newsday article from being, you know, 13th, how do we move our programs to 5th, to 6th, to 2nd, number 1? What is it that you guys need to kind of accomplish that?
I really appreciate the question. I want to go back and speak to a few things that came up. I feel like we're trying to speak about what's successful about our high school and what are we trying to do for every student, but we have these two key phrases up there, international baccalaureate and advanced placement. So there's like two conversations that we need to decide on. Are we having a conversation about two programs, or are we trying to decide what's best for students? And I think every one of us here are really proud about the programs that we offer and the community and the buy-in that we have already. I just want to go through a little bit before I answer that question specifically and give everybody a glimpse of students who may be enrolled in our school this week and what they may be up to. Today, our students in the film program, they published a film in which it was completely student-driven. They spoke with one another, they published it. They'll share it out tomorrow to the whole school. It was dynamite, excellent. All of us would be proud of it. Our high school music students are mentoring the younger students. We have a teacher who's teaching our high school students. And then you look in one of the small classrooms here, and our 17-year-olds are teaching guitar, piano, and music skills to the younger students. If you walk out in the hallway on any, once a week in January and February, we have some of our art students who will have 15 chairs with other high school students surrounding them in a program we call Art Talks. And they're just going to display their artwork and speak about it. So it's like an open gallery. And there's no IB or AP stamp on that. That's just students speaking with students. Those are some of the things that we want. In terms of growth over the last 4 years, I can't tell you if we were at 47% or 21% right now or 90%. What I can tell you is we have students right now who are working in the physical therapy office, who are working at the auto mechanic garage, and they feel great about it, and they're doing that as part of the school program. What do we need, or what would help for us to continue talking about these hard conversations? For the honest commentary about, hey, my son or my daughter or my neighbor wasn't successful. What can we do about that in the next few years? Because that's why we come to work, right? This is our job. And many of us are parents also. We've made some changes. And we might have been off, or we try to revisit some of the coursework, but one thing we tried to do over the last few years was Kim Farina advocated for the math department. We went back and forth, and we came to some compromises. Some of the math courses we left at 1 period and a half. Other courses we said, no, we need students to have a math course for 1 period, and then we need that other half period to expose them to careers, because we don't want students getting out of high school and then trying to figure out what direction they want to go. So now more students have been exposed to more elective areas. 3 or 4 years ago, every student had to take a specific course that was a local requirement. That's fine. And that might have worked 3 or 4 years ago. We came to the board, or we came to our central administration. It was discussed at the board level. The local requirement for that course in 9th grade was moved off, and now more students are expanding their exposure to other courses. I feel great about that exposure for people. I think we need to continue to talk about that. I never look at it as a principal, as a parent, as an AP or an IB piece. If you're an IB student and you're considering going to Florida State, if you have a 3.2, you may get $7,500 each semester towards your tuition. You may not get any money, but it may help you get into Northeastern. If you're an AP student and you scored a certain level, you may bypass introductory English and then be able to pursue your entry into a business school a year earlier. It's hard in one night to talk about all of the advantages. And I do agree that we need to speak about what's not working well. What are students sacrificing when they're in their rigorous courses? But I don't want to let tonight go by saying that we're only speaking about a percentage of our students. We have 13 in the last 3 years, last year, this year, and next year, we'll have 13 to 25% of our students involved in the IB Diploma Candidate Program. However, if we're going to talk about that, let's also talk about the 30 to 40 students who are splitting their time here and at BOCES. It's the same thing. Everyone. It's not an alternative program. It's a specialized program. I love the phrase IEP, but every student deserves it. And I really feel proud that we are giving students individual pathways, exposing students to programs, and continually revising our courses and our discussions. So some of the most troublesome things for all of us would be as if one of us feels we haven't been involved in the discussion of any changes. And that, I think, is something we need to fix. But I do, and I would love everyone to be able to see the art talks or the video, the film video, as a community. There are 12 to 15 film programs out of about 115 high schools in Long Island. We have one of the best. Other schools come here for it. So I do really appreciate kind of the conversation, but I do want to bring it full circle and say, let's just not talk about a percentage of students, and that's what I'm hearing kind of from everybody. But there is plenty that we can also continue, and I think maybe it's putting a brand or a name on the conversation. And I think some of the conversation was orientated towards AP and IB, but really I'd love to kind of rebrand it like Pathway for All Learners, because I do feel that we've been doing a pretty good job of making sure parents and students are aware of the different opportunities and the different pathways. Thank you.
George, anything else? Trustee Deltato? Anybody else at the board table? Trustee Themis.
I just have two more questions, comments. One of the slides this evening had brought up the Newsday article regarding the IB and AP scores on Long Island. And there was a section in the article that talked about Jericho's success, and one of the quotes was about how so many of their students were taking so many AP courses that they barely had any time to have lunch anymore. And I know this isn't necessarily a conversation just about test scores, but can we talk a little bit about what we're doing for, I guess, mental health and time management, making sure that these students who were taking these AP and IB courses, and it looks like some of them are taking quite a bit of them, how are we creating a balance for them? How are we not sending them off to college not burnt out, tired? Because one of the things that we did here, as amazing as the IB presentation was, and it was a pleasure to be there, most of the students said, I was just so happy to be done. And that feeling of being so happy to be done as opposed to I'm so excited for what's next are two very different things. And can we talk a little bit about what we're doing to make sure that students aren't overloading on coursework or overachieving or taking too many of these level courses, because it would be great to see, in my opinion, less students with better results, better learning environments suited to their student achievement than too many students pushing for too many classes, and they're ending up, in some cases, with, I think, mental health issues.
I can definitely speak to that question a little bit. I think one of the things that we're really proud of is a fairly low student to counselor ratio and developing our mental health staff. I mean, one area is me and, developing it even at the elementary level and the focus on just on counseling. And so what we're able to do with that and the expansion of having a high school social worker where we haven't had that position in the past and 2 full-time psychologists has given us the opportunity of dividing certain areas of student needs. Counselors used to be much more involved in crisis situations that happened when we didn't have a social worker or when we only had 1.5 school psychologists. But over the years, a huge goal of ours has been that school counselors are here for all students. And so the classroom lesson push-ins have increased. The group counseling has increased. We have social skills groups, and we have boys groups, and we have girls groups, and we have all different scenarios and situations that come up. We meet as an administrative, counseling, mental health team every week for about an hour and 15 minutes. Everybody adds to the agenda. We talk not only about individual student needs, but we talk about school-wide needs. If we find that the conversation is, we have this student who's having a difficult time with time management. I have a student too. We brainstorm, we create a group, and we really are able to work in a more holistic way as a team. And that's something that we've really grown to be able to do. In addition, and kind of, just what I spoke about with regard to course selection, is that every student develops their courses for the following year with their counselor. And it's very often that the counselor follows up with the family and says, hey, these are the courses that your child requested. Can we talk a little bit about it if there's any concerns about overload? If there's concerns about, your child was really stressed this year with the courses that they took, and I'm noticing that they chose the same courses next year, can we talk about that a little bit more? And that's also the benefit of the small counselor to student ratio and the fact that counselors stay with families. So, a lot of the counselors now at this point have known the families, let's say for 10 years, this is a third sibling, and that really helps to that. There's also been a greater focus just on mental health in general. We have our clubs have taken a huge stance towards mental health. Our Acts of Kindness Club, our peer leaders interact. If you walk around our halls, you'll see positive messages. You'll see that when you come during Kindness Week, there's messages on the stairs. Our morning announcements. Students on their own, as part of some of our clubs, have wanted to put positive messages on student lockers. I think that there is a definite emphasis on trying to make sure that our school feels like a community and that we're looking out for each other. One of the things over the last 2 years that we've noticed a lot is students coming forward to counselors or psychologists saying, I'm concerned about my friend. Can you check in on him or her? And we've seen that more than ever. And I think that that's a testament to the destigmatization that we're doing about mental health, and we're making sure that students know that it's okay to not be okay sometimes, and that there are supports and there are resources for you. So those are some of the things on this level. I think on the middle school level also, the counselors, we have a calendar for the entire district. Every month is devoted to a certain theme, and the counselors at each level go into the classes to deliver lessons, whether it be kindness or empathy or anything related to mental health, to make sure that that's a constant push, and we're talking to students about all different topics.
To piggyback on what Michelle was saying, along with those words and those themes, is that we've also paired each month with an IB learner profile characteristic, which Ms. Marchand spoke about before. And one of the words is balance. And I think that for many people, I think balance is one of the tougher things, especially for a high school student who's taking many AP, many IB. So it's not just for the IB learners anymore. It really is those 10 IB characteristics. We can just call them learner characteristics. They don't necessarily only belong to IB. Those are being displayed and heard and talked about throughout our school. It's not they hear the morning announcements both middle school and high school. So these are words that our students are hearing. And also to piggyback of our having a social worker, we just had a push in with our social worker into one of our IB theory of knowledge classes, because not that only IB diploma candidates are stressed, but we find that those students taking a lot of IB and AP courses get stressed. So we had a reach out program with our school social worker, and she went in, and one of the comments we heard was, I didn't even know we had a social worker, but I'm glad that I do now. And we talked about how we manage stress. What do we do when we feel stressed? We actually had them make little glitter jars to help. Like, I know it sounds silly that we did that with 17-year-olds, but they appreciate it. I can't tell you how many kids said, thank you for doing that. I'm so glad that we did that today. So we recognized it, and we really are trying to move in a positive direction with it.
Yeah, I think if I could add a few, the staff is really tuned into being flexible and patient with students who are behind or just trying to get ahead. The parent community has been dynamite in terms of supporting some of the outdoor areas and development. So if you kind of walked by during the day, you would see a lot of ping pong, outdoor picnic tables. We probably have more umbrellas than most schools, umbrellas at tables. And it's really a nice atmosphere where students are getting outdoors. We have a group of students with staff members who foster a beautiful, or several beautiful gardens. I'm sure you've seen them. I think that connects to the whole culture. Lisa, Angela, Michelle, many of the staff have run orientations and brought speakers in. But as much as the students are working hard, they're also getting out. I think next week or in January, I know we have a group of students going to like an escape room during the day. And even if that's for 2 hours during the day, it sends a great message that we're going to balance things. So the escape room. We also have a science group who just during their class, they're going to get on a bus, go down to the beach and collect the water samples instead of just having the teacher bring in. We have an outstanding group of student leaders, probably more spirit days than most schools, and whether it's wear your pajamas or wear a funny hat backwards, I think those things help. One of the things that we're going to continue to come to the board and our supervisors for is more support to renovate the learning spaces. I think one of the great successes is if you change the dynamic in a classroom from an individual desk to a conference or a workshop table where students can sit by themselves or with 2 people or with 6 people, and you can give students that choice. That's more like the workplace. That's more like the college library or student union and what students are preparing for. So I think those are the pieces that connect and tie into how are we protecting students emotionally.
Can I just shout out the new high school librarian, Mrs. Coppola? She has sort of transformed the high school library as well. And if anyone goes in there, it is now a place where students want to go. There's a small, quiet reading nook. She puts out puzzles for students to come in and just decompress. She's doing a lot of work with 3D printing in the library and encouraging kids to come in. So I think even having that space now as an alternate space where I'm free, I don't want to sit in the cafeteria, I can go and work on a puzzle with other people. I think she's like a coloring station, just places for the kids to come in and decompress a little bit during the day. So I just feel that she needs a little bit of recognition too, because she's done a great job in a few months.
Sounds like there's a lot of really good things going on. So I appreciate you guys focusing on the balance. As much as the courses are important, just to take it back, final question about the AP courses, just so I have a clear understanding. We have 16 AP courses that were offered this past year. Similar to the U.S. history, now that I'm looking at this presentation from October, any ones that were marked independent study, which it looks like there was about 5 of them, are all courses that were offered under IB, but someone was able to take an AP course, because I think this has chemistry, French language, physics, Spanish, U.S. history, and 2D art and design. So are those IB courses that they can take an AP class, and have any other AP coursework been eliminated this year that is now under an IB coursework?
So to answer your first question, we're very unique in that we actually send a message out to all students and parents prior to AP registration, and we ask them, if you're not currently in an AP course, but you are preparing on your own, or you'd like assistance in preparing and you'd like to take the AP exam, you have the opportunity to do so. Most school districts, you have to be enrolled in a course in order to take the exam, but we give that opportunity to all of our students who would like to sit for that exam. So that's what you're seeing, students saying, I want to take AP chemistry. This coming May, we have students taking French, Spanish, Italian, Chinese, all different sorts of exams. So those are what we call walk-ins, meaning they're not currently in an AP class, but they would like to take the exam. What was your second?
So the question was, though, like U.S. history, do we have any other course offerings? Because we had said before, you're offering U.S. history, but there's no U.S. history course. It's the IB History of the Americas. Are there any other AP courses that they're taking the IB class, but it's considered an AP course? Does that make sense? The same as the U.S. history.
Like, is there a Regents in 11th, Regents social studies in 11th grade?
Like for example, let's look at, like if someone's taking European history, AP European history, is it AP curriculum or is it IB curriculum and they're sitting for the AP exam?
So the European history is an IB course that students can opt to take the AP European history exam.
Okay, so of these 16 exams, do we know how many actual AP courses are being offered, or are there any AP coursework being offered anymore, or is it all IB curriculum?
We'd have to check the numbers. I don't have them right now. But in terms of the AP, there are courses that are AP courses, but are you asking the ones that are co-enrolled, like AP, IB, Euro, History right now?
I guess, I'm just trying to understand all this, because I thought they were two separate things and two separate courses, but it seems to be that the
There are
course is
some-
only IB, but the exams, we're offering two exams at the end of the IB
We can get that
course.
information. So there's, the way I see it, there's courses that are listed as an IB course where students then have the opportunity to take an AP exam. There are also courses that are exclusively AP courses. And then there are courses for some of those small ends like independent study.
Right.
That's not a course at all, and typically one of these people in front of you may be teaching that to a small group of individuals who've qualified for that,
Okay.
who are taking that. So we can get that information and share that with the board.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful just to see a breakdown of the courses
Yep.
versus and what exams are offered at the end of each of those courses.
Yeah,
'Cause
we'll get that.
I equate like the AP exam to an AP course, and without understanding, I think most people would think that the exam coincides with the course, but it doesn't seem to be that way.
So that's information we can get to the board first, and then we can ultimately share with the public, and we'll
Great.
put this presentation, and we'll make sure that the October presentation is linked right next to it, and then we can ultimately share that information as well,
Awesome, thank you.
right next to it.
Any other questions from the board table?
Yeah, I just want to say something. I'm a parent of an IB student. I went to her last night, and this is going back to the mental health side of things. I said, Olivia, you really haven't socialized a lot because, COVID, parents are afraid to send their children out to see other children and everything. And I'm worried about her, about that. She's not socializing outside of school or with kids in school. And I've heard you all speak about groups and everything, about kids can talk to other kids and everything like that. Being, and she doesn't have a lunch period. She's, I guess she goes through school and eats lunch on the run. But when would somebody like that have time to go to these groups? All the things that you're saying that they do, I don't even, I'm not even familiar with, but I think she would enjoy doing that, but I don't think she has the time to do those things. I know she's a member of 5 or 6 clubs, on top of playing 3 sports and doing everything else, but I'm worried about her mental health now. And I said, you got to go out this weekend, you know what I mean? Just go to dinner with somebody, but they're afraid to, and I don't know why. That's my problem with her. But somebody told me she was just here and she left. I would have got her up here and to talk to you guys. But
She would have loved that, John.
she left.
definitely
She
would have
saw
loved
me
that.
grab the microphone and she left. But
What do we do? I mean, is anyone else astounded by the fact that someone doesn't have lunch? Like a dedicated period
normal.
to have a brain break. And maybe it's
No, it's been like that for a lot of years here, that you don't have lunch, if you're on that
It's
track.
not every student, but it's not out of the ordinary for students to not have lunch. I don't think it's not a school decision that we say, hey, you can't have lunch because you need to take
No.
these classes. It's generally students who choose to take an additional class.
Right.
Maybe it's a science research class, something like that, that all of us, or, let's say you want to continue on with your study of music, and then the periods start to fill up. So
Yeah.
that, I don't know the percentage of the students who don't have lunch, but it is not out of the ordinary for some high school students to not have a lunch period. I'm not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just, that's what it is.
And going back to, I remember I think it was 9th grade, I came with my wife, and if your kid's a little advanced, they're only pushed to IB. That's where they're going. And the kids have it in their mind they want to do that. And I told her she doesn't have to do that. What do you say, Michelle, when a kid or a parent comes up to you and says those questions, do you give them the facts? I know we're not pushing as much as we used to, but, and what's the benefit,
I think first and foremost, I know she has a really close relationship with our counselor, and I would say that it starts there. And it starts there with a conversation of how are things going and opening up that conversation. And I know that you have that conversation with her counselor a lot too. And it's important to open that up and to see what kind of help we could get to her on an individual basis. A lot of what you're mentioning is very, very individualized. I know her well, and I remember that conversation when we had that meeting, and we talked about maybe guiding her in some non-IB level, and she came into the conversation and said, I'm doing this is what I want to do, and really was so focused and so driven that our opinion, even at that time, I remember, was something that she said, I'm really, really focused and I want to do it. And so I think that continued conversations about checking in with her and what are you sacrificing and what are you not doing and how can we help you get through that is really important. And so for her especially, we're going to make sure that happens, and we'll reach out to you to kind of close that loop.
Anything else from the board table? Okay, we're now going to open it up to the audience. Does anyone have any questions? The questions will be directed to Dr. Graham or Mr. Davidson. Anyone? Ms. McLaughlin.
Good evening. I met with Ken last week. Ken, thank you for meeting with me. However, I have to state that I was extremely disappointed. I had submitted to him a list of 20 questions regarding IB and AP, and he really did not research answers to any of them. One of them in particular, Mr. Steele brought up this evening about the attrition rate of students from last year's juniors to this year's seniors as far as full IB diploma candidates. And I'm sorry, between a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, and a high school principal, that's a number that you should be able to nail down pretty clearly, all right? It's not that difficult. So I've heard a lot of obfuscation tonight. The cost analysis went by really quickly, but I noticed there wasn't the theory of knowledge coordinator listed on there. There were a lot of things missing. The cost per year is more like $300,000 to $500,000, and Ken laughed at me when I said we've spent millions on IB over the past 20 years. So I was insulted. I know the research. They're not course fees. If you go to ibo.org and pull up the IB diploma fees, you will see an exam fee listed. It was $121. It might have gone up. There's also additional fees for the full IB diploma candidates, like for the theory of knowledge and EE and CAS. Those are core requirements that only the full diploma candidates can take. I would also like to say that in 2009, this district started charging the taxpayers for these exams, AP and IB, without a vote of the board. And you can see on my website, truthaboutib2.com, that the majority of AP exams scored ones. And that is because the students have no skin in the game, and this district forced them to take the exams. Now, the recent, the October meeting where we had 47 AP students, scholars, bravo. These kids took it upon themselves to get the credit that they needed. And the courses are online. They are standardized college level. IB is a framework. We spend over $60,000 every summer for our teachers to write the IB curriculum. There is no standardized IB curriculum. They make it up here according to the IB frameworks. All right, that's number one. And I would just like to say that it has been an outrageous expense over these years that, you know, I asked Ken to produce a copy of the 2016 self-review, and he's like, oh, we don't have to. So I'll foil it. But, you know, the lack of transparency, the arrogance, and finally, I got a notice today from a 2013 forum about IB student suicides. All right, this program is horrendous. Get rid of it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Heather Hoteen. I have 3 children in the elementary level, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. I have nothing prepared, but I came here tonight because I wanted to be a little more informed. I don't even know where to start. This IB sounds like something that every child in this district should be, the curriculum should have. I'm very versed in the Teachers College Reading and Writing Workshop. I'm actually certified in it. A lot of what you're talking about as the student as a whole is in these programs that we are bringing into our elementary schools. I know we're talking about the high school here, but I'm wondering, why are we only talking about a select group of students? I went to Cold Spring Harbor schools in the 90s. The programs that were there then sound like what we have here now, and I know I'm sitting up here talking with a couple other people who graduated from Locust Valley in the 90s and early 2000s. Nothing's changed, and that's the problem. We're not looking at every single student as a whole. We're just looking at a few students here. Why are we not talking about all the programs? Are you allowed to answer me back right now, or Ken, please?
I could answer. The focus of this evening's discussion was these college preparatory programs. That's it. So if we
Okay.
wanted to do a different presentation on all that's happening in the high school, and I think Mr. DiClementi did a nice job
He
of
did.
giving you a little bit of insight into some of the other
100%.
things that are going on. And I want to caution, it's, you know, one of the slides early on talked about open enrollment.
Right.
These programs are here for all students at
I know,
Locust
but what
Valley
about
High
my
School.
daughter who struggles, and what about my son who has a 504?
The people in
You know-
front of us here will work with their teachers to make sure that those students have access.
Okay, I'm going to use my last minute quickly just to wrap up. Thanks, Ken. But I want to see this school district get the emphasis off just these IB programs and the amount of money that you're putting into them. It's too much, and it's not hitting enough students. And we're talking about the mental health of children. We're talking about kids not even having a lunch period because so much pressure to be in so many of these programs. That's where we need to change our focus. And we have to think about the student as a whole. I wasn't prepared to come up here, but I'm sitting here and I'm just like, something's got to change. And we can't spend money on so much money on IB that's not hitting so many students. I have nothing else to say. Thank you for listening to me. I probably rambled on and made no sense, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoteen. Sure. Yeah.
Hi, my question is for both. Oh, sorry. Colette Foley. Do we pressure kids to take advanced placement or IB, or are those self-select? I mean, some are obviously directed in that direction because that they're honor students, but are we pressuring the kids or the families to take these?
I would say that the philosophy has shifted. There was an emphasis on participation rates several years ago, and that more students were pushed into advanced placement and IB courses than are currently happening. I think there is an informed discussion. There are encouragement of students who seem like they would be successful. So pressure, no. But I will also say, and I'm going to add, and it came up here, there is an external pressure, and there is sometimes a fabricated pressure that students put on themselves. When they look at the most selective colleges, the belief is they have to take every single most advanced course that they can, and therefore they forego lunch, even sometimes when being counseled that this is not what's necessarily best for you.
So when we say informed discussion, I'm assuming we're talking about parents having extensive conversations with guidance, with teachers, having an understanding, a real assessment of where their child is at,
Yes.
and then ultimately the parent making a choice as to whether or not their child should move forward into advanced placement classes. And if their child is stressed, having mental health issues, one would think the parent would make a choice with their child in their best interest not to pursue advanced placement classes. I've been in very many meetings with teachers, guidance counselors, and you've all been very helpful in helping me figure out where my children are. Ultimately, I make that decision with my children, correct? So my hope, Dr. Graham, is that we continue to keep doors open for all learners. Those who need to excel can excel. Those who want to pursue athletic careers, pursue athletic careers. Those who need IEP help, get that help. That's where I would like to see the district continue to move. Trade schools, BOCES. I don't think that this district should be talking about closing doors, but rather keeping doors open. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foley. Yes.
Hi, Mary Capel. Do you need the address? No. I just wanted to, about the IB, I was on the information session last week, and last week, and I'm new to whole IB. My son's in 9th grade here. He was on it in the background at the end. He could care less what was said by every administrator on there in person. I found it very interesting and helpful. Who he listened to were the students on it at the end. There was, I believe, some students who are seniors now, I could be wrong, and there were some graduates. He got off Fortnite to listen to them because he was really impressed. I think that he was listening to the young men a little more, but he was really impressed how, I talked to him about it afterwards. The majority of the students felt that even if they didn't do as well as they wanted to do, that they all made clear to the parents who were on the line that it was still valuable when they moved on to college, if they were moving on to college, because they learned a lot more skills that were needed for their college courses. So I really appreciated that information session, and I hope that when they show the students it, that they consider having some graduates or higher grade students, and I know we have another year to figure it out. I did want to say that I was personally impressed because my son thrives with structure, and the program that they were talking about, particularly the essay, which was a lot of words, it seemed like there were segments in place and supports in place that said that You need to get X, Y, and Z done by this date, this X, A, B, and C by this date, and that was all a progressive way to build towards the end. And what I was hoping might eventually be available in the younger grades in high school before they can take IB is maybe an enrichment portion in their global, my son's in global honors, maybe there could be an enrichment portion where the students can choose to maybe work on an essay that's not 4,000 words, that's 1,000 words, or starting somewhere just to gradually build up to that so there's not so much pressure when he's in the higher grades. I did want to, somebody mentioned about lunch. He moved into ninth grade. He chose the courses he was supposed to choose nothing that required extra, and he did not get a lunch every other day. That was a surprise to me going into the high school. So I do think that coming out of eighth, the parents should be told, hey, you might not get a lunch. But he lives with it now, so that's okay. So I did appreciate that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sure.
I've never done this before. Should I say my name? Okay. I'm Jenna Giacchini. I'm a 12th grader at Locust Valley, class of 2022. And I was just upstairs broadcasting this, like live streaming with Mr. Boucher, shout out Mr. Boucher, and I was hearing about the IB program, and like I just wanted to give like student input. So I'm just gonna like speak off like the top of my head. So I'm not an IB diploma candidate, but I do take IB classes. I take IB Film, IB English, IB Euro, and probably another one I'm like forgetting because I'm a little bit under pressure right now. But I very much enjoyed these programs because like, one, they prepare you for college, which is very true because like I have older friends who are in college and they get like a lot of like work, a lot of essays that are similar to the ones that we write in IB. And I feel like the workload is like learning how to manage your time now is going to become like increasingly useful when you go to college. So I feel like it's helpful in that regard. And one thing I personally really enjoyed from like IB is like the IAs and the internal assessments. You get to choose what you write about. And I know Ms. Manzo brought that up before, like, oh, that can be done in other classes, but I don't really take classes that let you like choose what you write about. Like for my historical investigation, I had fun, I can't believe I'm saying this, I had some fun writing it because it was about like a topic that I enjoyed, and then I got to choose. My textual analysis for film, like I had fun writing that because I got to choose the film, and like I feel like having that choice is like really useful because it can teach you that like just because you're writing a paper, it doesn't mean it needs to be like unenjoyable. And something was like, I was hearing people talk about how like, oh, people can like lose lunches, but usually that's up to the student. I've had friends who are in IB diploma candidates and they're like, yeah, like I'm not gonna have my lunch junior year. Usually it's junior year for people. I'm not gonna have my lunch junior year, but like, it's okay. Like it'll be worth it because then senior year, I'll have to take a lot less classes. I have a lot more rewards with the IB program and it definitely helps with college. So I'm just giving some like student input. But yeah, I really did enjoy the IB classes I'm taking, and I feel like it offers a new level to education that I didn't really get before, because most of the time with other classes, it's like, oh, write this, write that. Like, there's no really, like, external thinking, applying it to the real world, or, like, making choices in your writing. But with, like, the IB courses, like, I get to choose the book I write about, the film I write about, and I really like that because it actually, like, it helped me enjoy what I was writing. And it also gave me experience with writing big essay papers, which is big in college. And we kind of took a pause on that with other classes like in high school. So yeah, that is my input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
How are you, Renata Solomu? So she actually made me want to come and say that I don't know what is happening with this experience with the whole school, but I went to Montessori school my whole life. And if I had learned that in 9th grade, it was going to be too late. We started that in kinder. Management, our time, choosing what subjects or what to do every day. There's nothing for my daughter that at an early age decided to be an athlete. There's nothing to offer, the school has nothing to offer for her, for example. So if a kid doesn't choose IB, that means that they're not gonna learn all these skills. These skills should be taught. And I have said this the whole time. Homework is useless. Projects is what our kids have to be doing, meeting deadlines. That's what real life is, not homework that comes with a page that they don't even care, they don't even do. But this can be IB. This has to be school-wide. It's too much money invested in IB for a small group of people that decides to take that advantage, where we could train our whole school, have teachers that want to come to our district because we are going to be trained on that kind of maybe Montessori or however you want to call it, stay with us forever and offer that school-wide, like district-wide, and not just to a small group of people. That seems like a lot of money for not having it for everybody. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just want to add something, and just want to thank everybody for coming up and commenting, because it's, as a board member, it's good to hear commentary from the community and parents, especially when you haven't gone through as a parent in middle school and high school. It sounds like, and what I'm getting from this conversation is that people are really attracted to the style of learning that IB is offering. And maybe this is the start of a catalyst for us to have a bigger conversation of a board on how do we as a district emanate this type of learning throughout our district. Maybe we don't need IB. Maybe we do. Maybe it goes back to being what IB used to be, where it was for certain kids that wanted to be challenged in this type of learning, but that this type of learning is available to all of our students. And I would love, Dr. Graham, if we can maybe have this as a starting point of, maybe segmenting IB out. It sounds like IB is kind of taken over because of the style of learning and not necessarily because of the actual courses. We've got exceptional teachers that are teaching this style and this way. Wouldn't it be amazing if all your colleagues and all of your peers were educated and trained to do this outside of just IB? And I think I would appreciate us maybe putting that on a discussion to see how we can explore this a little bit further.
Agreed. Sure.
Okay, so this dual enrollment is new to me. I had no idea about this. But I find it very interesting that you've partnered with St. John's University. If you go to their admissions website, they say they no longer recognize the IB diploma. They will recognize individual higher level courses for credit. Now, that distinction also was not made this evening. IB offers standard level, SL, and higher level courses. For some unknown reason in this district, the standard level courses, which are supposed to be 150 hours of coursework, are run over the course of 2 years. So why? A higher level course is supposed to be 240 hours. Why is Locust Valley offering standard level for 2 years? And second of all, and Jay Matthews from the Washington Post has written columns about this. You have to pay now to pull up the old columns. But a pet peeve of his is that most universities in the United States will not award credit for IB standard level exams, only higher level exams. So you're forcing kids in 11th and 12th grade into IB courses and not offering AP in U.S. history, which I find unbelievable. History of the Americas is from 1880 forward. It does not address the founding of this country. Back in 2005, I had this district remove the primary textbook that was being used for History of the Americas, which was written by Howard Zinn, A People's History of the United States. He's a socialist. It was a very, very biased view of the United States history. So this is a program that is way too expensive, and we should be offering our students a wide range of AP courses. Where's AP macroeconomics, AP microeconomics? Why don't we have a course in public speaking? Where are all these courses? Why do you only offer IB standard level math? That's really sad. So, I mean, I looked at course guides for Manhasset, Brian, your district, Jericho, Roslyn, Wheatley, Cold Spring Harbor, all the great districts, and none of them have such a paltry offering of courses. And the IB courses are just, I'm sorry, they may be great that they can choose what they want to do, but they're not college level, and really concentrate on AP and honors.
Thank you again. Okay, so that,
Mr. Nolan, before we end, I just wanted to thank our administrative team here for the effort that they put in. Certainly, there's a lot of people in our district and in this building that are highly invested in teaching IB, in teaching AP, and in teaching our dual enroll courses. And I just want to speak to a point that Ms. McLaughlin made real quick, and I think another speaker had made, is that the skills that are taught in our IB courses, I think are taught in our other courses as well. When you're leading up to 9th grade, when you're leading into 10th grade, you know, those are things that teachers have been trained on. Teachers participate in professional development, not only going out to IB, but then there's collaboration amongst teachers within a department so that there's sharing of best practice under the direction of our coordinators and directors, under the direction of Ms. Manzo. And so I think that the skills that we want to see, you know, that all of us have talked about and in fondly, are in courses throughout the district. So I appreciate the time from all of these individuals. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Board of Education for this conversation.
thank you. The board echoes that same thanks. The passion and commitment, not only from our administrators, but our teachers to our instructional program. We also thank you on behalf of the board. So if you want to dismiss our administrative
you guys
team.
don't need to be in the congressional hearing seats anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Get home safe.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, so we're now going to turn to a second item on our agenda, which is the discussion pursuant to the Nassau County Executive's executive order. This was an item that was asked to be added tonight, so I'll ask if there's a discussion from the board table.
Sure, I think I can lead us off tonight. Everybody's okay with that?
And we have also just our general counsel, Chris Venator, is here from Ingram and Smith.
So, executive order. My hope for tonight is there seems to be a lot of people, a lot of politicians, a lot of associations who have all come out with a lot of opinions on this past week's executive order. And I think we owe it to ourselves, to the community, to really go through all of this together, kind of get in the weeds as a board, go through the legalities with our attorneys, ask all the questions that we need to ask, and hopefully, at least at the end of tonight, be able to at least come together collectively as a board, at least deciding where we want to move forward or how we want to address this. It could be to vote, to not vote, to move forward, to ask questions, but I would really like us all at this table to ask enough questions tonight that we all feel comfortable as a collective group saying, the Locust Valley Central School District Board of Education, this is our stance on this executive order, and we feel confident as a group. We may not all agree, but at least we'll have the information that we all need tonight. That's my hope for this conversation as a board member. And I appreciate our council being here. You may get a little bit of stage time tonight, so I appreciate your time. And I think, Margaret, maybe you want to you're really good at starting at the beginning. I mean, we started with Cuomo.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to kind of just take some of the noise out of the way, because I think that there was a lot of weighing in on Friday after January 6th, 3 executive orders that were signed. There was a lot of weighing in from organizations that sound like they have some type of legislative or governing power, because they have a lot of acronyms that go along with them, but they really are advocacy groups or lobbyist groups or paid membership organizations. So I just want to get that out of the way for the public. The first one is the Nassau-Suffolk School Boards Association. It is a paid membership organization comprised of local school board members. Not every one of the Nassau or Suffolk school boards are members. I know of several who have opted out. They do not pay the dues. They are not part of it. The Nassau-Suffolk School Board Association's first priority is to the oath they took to the elected positions that each of those members that sit on their board and their executive committee took for their own home districts. The second organization is NYSBA, the New York State School Boards Association. Again, is a membership that represents school boards, and we pay them to help us with resources and services. They do our training, and they do hold a yearly conference where all of the school boards present different resolutions that are important to them. There's a very large contingency of school board members that meet and go into session, and they vote on the different important topics for NYSBA to then go and lobby Albany on. Again, they are not a governing body. They have no legislative backing. They have no governance. Neither of these organizations require mandated participation. They are not regulating or law enforcing bodies with no jurisdiction over the action of any school board in the state of New York. The letter written by Mike Kelly of the Nassau-Suffolk School Boards Association is nothing more than his opinion. Ironically, when the most recent 2.6 extension of the determination was replaced in December and then extended 2 more times, neither NYSBA or NISBA or NICET took the time, in effort, in lockstep, to write an objection to the fact that 2.60's extension of a determination eliminated mask breaks for all students K through 12. They didn't think that was important to stand behind. I need the public to understand that. 2-year-olds and up, sorry, 2-year-olds and up, no mask breaks all day. NICET is the union of the teachers, and they have not written a letter in condemnation of adding and slipping in that little piece into the extension of 2.60's determination. Lastly, a lot of local Democrat leaders wrote a letter, and I can only speak to this district, but not one of our 3 elected officials, Democrat or Republican, on the state level has visited our schools in the past 20 months. They have not seen our children sitting and eating like a prison. They have not seen our children sit next to windows that are open in freezing temperatures. They have not seen our lower elementary kids who couldn't play with their friends at recess because we couldn't mingle with other people last year. They can't sit at a lunch table with their friends. Our kids are melting in the classroom in the hot weather and freezing in the classroom in the cold weather. And then they leave our school, our kids, and they live beautiful, active lives without masks. It's just amazing. They socialize at parties, birthday parties, bounce houses, country clubs, sporting events, sports camps, sleepaway camps, day camps, summer school, recreation. The funny part is when you watch them leave in the high school and they all jump into the same car, sometimes 10 of them shoved into a Yukon. Nobody's got a mask on in there, but make sure you wear it and don't take a break all day long. So that leaves me, I have a lot of questions for my friend, and I really say that with love, Mr. Venator. And I don't know if I'm gonna let you speak first and you tell me and then I'll tell you my questions, but I do want everyone here to know that I think Chris Venator is one of the best lawyers on Long Island.
Thank you, Margaret.
You want me to ask the questions, or do you want to make a statement?
You want me
I-
just
I'm
to
ready.
give you just a brief overview, and then
You
I'll-
could give a brief overview. That would be great.
All right, so as we know, the county executive issued an executive order requiring school districts in Nassau County to have a vote by a certain date in January with respect to the requirement to wear masks. In response to that, the governor of the state of New York and also State Education Department, the Commissioner of Education, each then issued statements indicating that the Nassau County executive didn't have the authority to issue that type of executive order, and indicated that any district that went ahead and voted in favor of not having masks, that would be in violation of regulations of the Department of Health, and therefore those school districts would be subject to some type of penalty, including the removal of board trustees and/or the forfeiture of state aid. So that's what happened last week. So you have a county executive who's taken the position that he has the authority to issue this type of executive order, and you have other people in government, the New York State governor and the Commissioner of Education, saying that the county executive doesn't have that discretion to do it. And I'm sure, I'm making an assumption, I would assume that before the Nassau County executive issued that executive order, he consulted with, he has a number of county attorneys at his disposal. I'm sure he spoke with them, so he must have gotten some advice from people indicating that he had the authority to do it. And the governor and the state education department, they spoke to whatever attorneys they speak to, and I'm sure they got the advice that the county executive didn't have the authority. So that's kind of where we are. I'll try to answer your questions. A little bit of this, is unknown, right? So we've never had this before. So I don't have any precedent that I can rely upon and say this will definitively happen. So just an overview, the law, what the law, consists of. The law is a very broad topic. So within the law, you have statutes, okay? New York State education law is a statute. Open meetings law is a statute. General municipal law is a statute. Vehicle and traffic law is a statute. We probably have 100 different categories of statutes in New York State. In addition to statutes, we have regulations. We have regulations of the Commissioner of Education. We have regulations from the Commissioner of Health. We have a number of bodies that are authorized to issue regulations. I would say that those things also fall within what we call the law. We also have what's known as common law. Common law is this great body of case law that comes from courts, Nassau County Supreme Court, the Appellate Division, New York State Court of Appeals, federal courts, where they interpret statutes and they interpret regulations, because there's a lot of gray that's built into those statutes and those regulations. So courts, they opine on what those things mean, and they create this other body of law called case law or common law. So I just give you the background so to get an understanding of when you talk about the law, it's all of those things. Just general overview.
All right. I'm going to start at the beginning.
Okay.
Can you just very briefly explain the difference between Cuomo's executive orders and that Cuomo does not, that those orders were taken away from him and Hochul does not enjoy those privileges of an executive order for an emergency disaster?
My understanding is while the legislature gave Governor Cuomo the authority to issue those orders and allowed that to take place, at some point the legislature then took away those powers. So they no longer existed. That's my understanding of what happened with respect to the power of the governor to issue certain executive orders, where some of them required the approval of the legislature.
Right. So in August, when Hochul made a statement that she knew she didn't have the authority to force mask mandates on children, and she directed the Department of Health to find a way, that's because she does not enjoy the privileges of the executive orders, because March 2021, the legislative took that away from the position, not the person.
I think that's correct.
Okay. The county executive is stating and maintaining and doubling down since Thursday, nationally, on national television repeatedly, that he has home rule power. And that his home rule power, specifically in the state of New York, is one of the most broad-reaching home rule powers in all of the states, and that he has the power to override a determination. Sorry.
Yeah, I know he says that, so let's talk a little bit about what it's called the municipal home rule law is. And it's a section, it's a statute, so it's a law that talks about sort of the separation of powers between municipalities, like counties, school districts, villages, towns, and the state. So that home rule law, municipal home rule law, stands for a couple different propositions. One of the propositions is that to the extent that a municipality, let's talk about a county, to the extent that a county has been given the authority to legislate or to enact rules or orders, et cetera, on a particular topic, then that gives that county the authority to do that. There's also a doctrine under the municipal home rule law that speaks to another principle. We call this preemption. And the preemption doctrine speaks to a situation where the state has evinced an intent to legislate on a particular area and has in fact legislated on a particular area. So in this particular case, what the state is saying is that we have given the Department of Health the authority to enact specific rules and regulations concerning schools and wearing of masks and social distancing and the alike. So the state is saying, because we've given that authority to the Department of Health, a county or any other municipality is preempted from enacting rules or laws that are in conflict with the state legislation or the state regulation. So there's two components of the home rule law.
Did the state give them? The state didn't give the Department of Health that jurisdiction. It wasn't given. The power wasn't given by the legislature. The Department of Health gave it to themselves. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I think they're relying upon a particular section in a statute which authorizes a Department of Health to issue regulations.
Right. So
Just a
did
general
not go
position.
through the legislature.
No, it did not. You're correct. It went through the Department of Health.
Right.
No, and we have to come back around because there's two different avenues I'm going to
Okay.
go here. The first one is the most recent extension, the December 10th extension. It says in it that the August and the November extension are null and void. They changed the word. They don't use the word mandate at all in the 2.60. They changed it. The only words that are in there are action, determination, requirement. They actually don't even use the word regulation anymore. When they did this extension of this determination on December 10th, they slipped in the section about taking away the mask breaks. They also put in the indoor masking in New York State. Now, if I were the governor, I would have gone 2.64. That's what I would have done. So there's got to be a reason why they didn't just make a new 2.64. Just to give everybody, 2.60 was the mask mandates in the school. 2.61 was reinstating the quarantine, because by the way, last summer there was no quarantine and close contact for the Department of Health, so that all the children could go to sleepaway camp and everything like that. So we didn't even have to report last summer. However, we had a phenomenal maskless summer with almost no COVID rates across Long Island in schools and everything. But 2.62 is the mandate for the teachers to be vaxxed and or tested, and if they don't do either, they will be walked out of this building, any building. So why wouldn't they just take the indoor masking for New York State and make it 2.64? Instead, she embedded it into 2.60, and she also slipped in taking away the masks. Now, fast forward to January 6th, there were 3 executive orders that Blakeman signed. The first one was that the parental choice, that the boards needed to vote to whether or not to have parental choice or not, and every board can vote their own way. The second executive order was for all county workers to not have to wear a mask indoors or outdoors. The third was a directive to all Nassau County agencies, Nassau County Department of Health, Nassau County Police Department, Nassau County Fire Marshals, to stand down, basically, not enforce the mandate. According to Hochul, on December 13th in her press conference, and I have all of this for you, on December 13th, she said, I can't enforce the counties to enforce this. I can hope that businesses will do the dirty work for me, but I can't enforce it. And on her website, where you literally have to dig into the Q&A to even find the new extension of the determination 2.60, on her website, in the Q&A section, where is it? It says that all enforcement will be at the local level. So isn't she basically giving Blakeman the home rule? I'm sorry.
When I say the local level, I think she's talking about the local Department of Health.
And our local Department of Health is under the jurisdiction of Nassau County and an executive order to not enforce. Now, I know that under Cuomo's executive order, which was a real executive order for a year, I know that the fire marshal had the capability of shutting things down because it happened to me. And I wasn't even there. It happened to Lori Minicozy. They shut down the Halloween Howl. Somebody in town called and reported us. They showed up and they shut it down because that was a real executive order. It had teeth. It had legal backing. Here, this is on the governor's website. How will these requirements be enforced? It is our expectation, that's a funny way of saying law, that New Yorkers will understand the importance of following this requirement, another funny way to say law, as we enter this holiday season where a surge in cases is expected. Enforcement will be done by the local health departments. So my question is, how can you surgically extract from the same 2.60 that you're only going to enforce section C, I think it was, 3C. You're only going to enforce section 3C, but you're not going to enforce the section for the rest of New York State, which is section 7, all indoor public places not otherwise covered by this determination, which would fall under the executive order number 2 that Blakeman gave. So I don't understand how you can, pick and choose. If it's all in the same document, how are you picking and choosing which executive order you're going to enforce and not if it's law? If it's all enforceable law, how do you pick and choose?
Well, I don't think there should be a pick and choose, and I think, if you're required to enforce, you should enforce everything. And if you're not, then you don't. So I agree with you to the extent that there shouldn't be that we're going to enforce 3C, we're not going to enforce 7. That does seem to me to be inconsistent.
Because if it was a law, you'd have to enforce all of it.
Well, the other thing that has come down, and I don't know whether this is going to happen, is that, I heard through various, sources, we talked to a lot of people in the state to figure out what's going on, et cetera, that to the extent that, this dispute continues and it becomes a real dispute, that, the Attorney General may get involved and may bring some litigation against Nassau County. That's being, I think, talked about up in the state level. So whether or not that will happen, I don't know, but I know that that's something that's been discussed, and that could happen. I don't know.
Do you know why they haven't brought that litigation already? Because there's a handful, I want to say over 10 counties in the state of New York that have openly said they are not
29.
enforcing. 29.
29.
29 not enforcing the mask mandate, and there has been zero litigation against any of those counties? The AG hasn't brought anything to any of those counties?
It may be different. Again, I'm speculating. That may be different if the issue was mask mandates in schools as opposed to stores and other indoor places. So they may distinguish between that and make a determination, well, we're not going to force it in, the Walmart or the 7-Eleven, but when it comes to the schools, we're going to enforce it. I mean, so that's a possibility that they would take that position if, in fact, it turns out that there are districts that take the vote and vote not to have a mask requirement. That type of litigation could arise if that were to happen. So far, that hasn't happened yet. So that could spur on that type of litigation. But again, I'm speculating. I don't have any inside information in terms of whether or not that's going to happen or not. I just know it's something that's been talked about.
So the legality of this extension, and it's called the Commissioner's Determination on Indoor Masking pursuant to 10 NYC RR 2.60, December 10th. It was supposed to expire, well, the indoor masking portion of it was supposed to expire January 15th. I think they moved it to the 25th, and now they're moving it to February 1st. And the legality of it, I question, because in August, the New York State Department of Health granted themselves the ability to override their own New York State regulation policy to change policy. They said, we're in an emergency, it's a crisis, we have to just bypass the protocol to change policy, and we're going to put this August mandate down, and that's what they did. But then there was no emergency from August until November 27th. It was supposed to last for 90 days. And in order to extend, revoke, or review, you had to do 45 days for an existing policy for it to go out to the public to hear public comment.
Is that under SAPA?
And that's SAPA.
Yeah, correct.
So they didn't do that. So they just met and they gave a quick determination on November 10th to hold, November 24th to hold us over to December 10th, and then December 10th superseded it. So they didn't give the public the right or the time to speak to it, and that is state law. Now, ironically, today, NYSED, New York State Education Department, notified, which I find so interesting, the public of their SAPA, basically, through Twitter, that they have an amendment to one of their regulations, because that's what you have to do. You have to notify the public when you're going to amend a regulation. And the wording in their document is SAPA. It's, we have to do this. This is New York State law. We're amending our policy, and we have to bring it to the public. So they know that it's legal. That's the legal way to do it, yet they didn't do it for 2.60. And the understanding of the two things that they put forward is that, in my opinion, they are going to be circumventing the legislative process on getting vaccines into the buildings and tests and pharmacists and nurses to be able to come into the buildings and give the shots in the buildings. They are going to circumvent the New York State legislation where there is a bill that might go to the floor and be voted on. They're going to allow those people to not have to vote on it, and they're going to run it through the New York State Department of Education and then say it's law. That's what's going up for amendment in February. So, I just don't understand how SAPA works for one amendment of a regulation, but it doesn't work for this amendment of a regulation when we were not in crisis anymore because everybody was in masks. So where is the SAPA for continually revising and extending this?
I'm not sure. I haven't really followed the bouncing ball in terms of those nuances. I understand that under the State Administrative Procedure Act that there are certain requirements, and whether or not they're permitted to waive those requirements under certain circumstances. I'm just not sure. I haven't done the research on that. I know, for instance, by analogy, boards of education have policies, and there's a policy on creating a policy. And I know that there have been times when we have provided resolutions to boards to temporarily suspend their policy on making policy because of an emergency situation or a pressing situation.
Which they did in August,
right.
But then we weren't
So whether or
in an
not that's
emergency.
valid,
Right.
I agree with you, that's up for debate.
Right. And honestly, Chris, all of these things, I would love for you to, get the things that you don't know, like get answers for us, because our meeting is next week. I'll give you a printout of all these questions.
Sure.
She did say on, I said that, just to be clear, the Nassau County Department of Health, the Fire Marshal, and the Nassau County Police Department were all in attendance on Thursday, as was all of the heads of all of the CSEA union reps that work for the county. They're all in agreement with the executive orders. Today, Dr. Eisenstein was quoted as saying that schools need to do what's right for their individual districts, which is another indication that the Nassau County Department of Health is punting it back to the school boards. And just for the public edification, what is the difference between a mandate and a determination, legally speaking? Is there one?
I don't think there's a legal significance between the two. I mean, I think they both get to the same place, a requirement.
Okay.
So I think,
So they're changing of the wording?
Yeah, I think maybe because they're trying to emphasize something, maybe they call it a mandate.
So going
But
from
I don't
a
think they
mandate
mean,
to
I don't think
determination?
that determination and mandate, I don't think they mean anything different in terms of what they're putting out. Whether they call it a mandate, they call it a requirement, it all means the same thing. They're saying you have to do this.
And in a world where there isn't NYSED, would an executive order of a county executive supersede a mandate and/or a determination?
Determination or mandate from whom?
From the public health of New York State.
If that county regulation is inconsistent or in conflict with an area in the law where the New York State or the Department of Health, which is a subset of New York State, has already legislated, then under the preemption doctrine, that county mandate may not be enforceable.
Okay, so if the New York State Department of Health says that the local authority, Department of Health, is the one to enforce it, and the executive order comes in from that county and says, stand down, where does that leave? If NYSED is taken out of it, and we're just talking about regular old people, not kids.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be a different situation if the local Department of Health made that determination. You're talking about not the local Department of Health, you're talking about the county executive, right?
But the local Department of Health is saying that he is not enforcing it prior to an executive order. Because Curran didn't sign an executive order, and Curran went out on December 13th, as well as Boulogne, and said, we're not enforcing this. So
Yeah, I think both the Suffolk County and Nassau County Departments of Health have indicated that they're not going to enforce the mandate. But they didn't, I don't know that they articulated, well, we're not going to enforce it in stores and other places, but will enforce it in schools. So I don't know if anybody's made that distinction clear.
All right.
So, I can't tell you if, let's say, a given district wasn't abiding by, let's say, having everyone wear masks and made it, choice. I don't know whether or not, in that instance, whether it's the Suffolk County Department of Health or the Nassau County Department of Health, whether they, in that instance, would say, okay, now we have to enforce it because it's schools. I don't know.
So Betsy, and one last thing, guys, and then I'm done. Betsy Rosa wrote, counties do not have the legal authority to require boards of education to vote on specific issues. So the county doesn't have the legal authority, but can the board decide to vote in and of themselves, not under an executive order?
Well, a board could vote on anything it wants to vote on.
Okay. And school officers take an oath to obey legal requirements. The state education expects school boards will follow all legal requirements. We all took an oath to the United States Constitution, the New York State Constitution, not Betsy Rosa, and not state ed. So all legal requirements would actually be the 10th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and all the other constitutional violations that they're putting on our children. We would have to defend those rights because we are to follow all legal requirements. It is a legal requirement to defend the United States Constitution. And the United States Constitution trumps the state constitution, except when the 10th Amendment is, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's it.
Any
I'm going to
other-
ask a question. Has there been instance in the past where the state education department has withheld state aid on matters that pertain to the Department of Health?
I don't think I've seen that. I mean, I have seen situations where the state education department has withheld different types of aid, building aid, et cetera, where school districts didn't fill out the correct paperwork in order to be eligible for that type of aid. It could be special ed aid, it could be building aid, et cetera. So I have seen other situations where state aid has been withheld. I can't tell you that.
But those all fall under the jurisdiction of the Department of Education, correct?
Yes.
And this falls under the Department of Health, correct?
Yes.
So really, they're both vying for a seat at whoever is at the top of the table here, or at the top of the totem pole.
Well, they each have different powers. The state education department is saying that they can withhold state aid, they can have board members removed. So they're saying that's within their jurisdiction to do that. But in answer to your question, I haven't seen any particular instances where a Department of Health regulation was not followed, and state aid was.
Is there a law allowing the state education department to withhold funds at their whim?
I mean, it has to be embedded in some statute. I don't know what statute they're relying upon to make the statement that state aid will be withheld. I can look
If we
to see
could look
where
into that.
Okay.
Because a claim that they can withhold state aid has to have some legal backing.
It does. You just can't withhold money. You have to have some type of, regulation, law. We have specific laws on state aid and how one gets state aid. Whether or not there's something in there that talks about contingent upon a school's compliance with X, Y, and Z. I don't know,
If
but
we
I
could look into that,
Sure.
that would be great. More than they just don't want to give it to us or they don't like what we're doing. Great. And then in just the other reference, in states, there's plenty of states throughout the country that have executive orders stating that mask mandates are not allowed in schools. And there have been plenty of schools that then went out and took it upon themselves to put a mask policy in place. How does this differ?
Well, each state is different, so I don't know what state you're talking about.
Let's take Florida for an example. They're in the
Okay.
news. They have they have an executive order to not allow mask mandates in schools. There have been schools throughout the state of Florida that enacted their own mask mandates within their district.
I don't know the results of any litigation, so I'm not familiar with what the result has come about on that issue in Florida. I just don't know.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I mean, does this, I'm going to put it out to the board. We've had a consistent message for the last 18 months that we were fighting against masks. That's been this board's stance. We have written numerous letters. We have taken numerous positions legally. I would really love to know, I mean, I think it's important for us to have this conversation and be frank that we're all on the same page, that this is still the fight we're looking to have. Whatever route that is this what everybody wants? I'm in this fight. I want these children out of masks. It's asinine what they're doing to these children. It's child abuse. So I'm in the fight. I was at the county executive's office because I believe in the fight. I'm not saying we all have to agree on how to go forward with that fight. We have to, obviously, this is a board, you make decisions, but I think this is the time for us to have the frank conversation as where are we as a board? Our community deserves to know.
Well, Lauren, I believe in no mask. We went down the road a few times, and if we don't get the support from other districts and the whole state, nobody's going to take two schools seriously. That's the bottom line, and I'd like to ask Chris, is the state ed, are they going to be able to withhold funds from us when they put all the onus on, the Department of Health to make the laws? That's, the question is, we went to bat for the lawsuit, you got a quick no, like no tomorrow, and we can go down that road. We can't go down that road again to my liking, because we don't have enough support besides the 2 or 3 school districts. You know, I don't want my kids to wear a mask. I think it's the parents' choice to wear a mask. I'm not wearing a mask now.
John, I just want to say that it's very important for everyone to understand what the lawsuit was based on was the August mandate determination, whatever you want to call it. That has since expired.
Right.
And we have to get to the bottom of whether it's been illegally extended.
Right.
We also have to get to the bottom of how do you pick and choose enforcing one part of it and not the other when it's all still under the same 2.60. And the game has changed. We have an executive order in this county. So we also have to get to the bottom of that. To say that we're going down the same road is not really, it's not the true story. It's not the picture. And this is, I agree with you, other districts need to stand up. I think that, can't remember which agency was quoted in Newsday saying, it's not fair to put this on the boards. And it really puts them in a bad position. And, you know, another board, I think it was the Democratic leaders said the boards have no voice. So I would make the argument, if we have no voice, what are we doing up here, first of all? Second of all, I disagree with him. We have a voice. We're elected by our constituents. And, you know, I think that a lot of board members, and you know, we've attended the meetings that Massapequa was holding, where 2 board members were attending, and there was just open dialogue. It's clear. They want to be told, I can't do this, because it's really a hard road to navigate. It's a really hard decision to make, and people just want to be told, you have no choice. And what I saw go down on Friday was like a game of whack-a-mole, and it's the law, it's the law, it's the law. It's actually not a law. It is actually not a law. And the biggest, most dangerous thing is when the public is told a lie repeatedly, and then they start believing it. And they just regurgitate that soundbite out. And I think that is where a lot of our fellow colleagues are lost. They're not actually reading the information. It takes hours every day of the week, including Sundays, to go through all of this and read it and then follow what these agencies are saying and what NICET is posting and the laws and the amendments and everything. And, you know, to sit there, you know, and just say, hey, I can't do it. And let me tell you, that's the easiest thing. But I fight not against this district. I fight for this district, and I fight for every single kid to have a choice, a parental choice. You want your kid in a mask? The vaccines are out. We sat here in August, and we listened to people beg, wait for the vaccines to get out. The vaccines are here. You could even get a booster. And if you still want to have your child in a mask, that is your God-given right and prerogative. But no child should be masked from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And for all intents and purposes, I hope to God that high schoolers take a break if they're staying after school for athletics. But some of these kids, or even theater, some of these kids could potentially be in this building between bus transportation and the end of the day, almost 8 or 9 hours in a mask with no break. I want to know the person who thinks that's okay. I want to know the argument of how that helps. I want to hear it. So this is it. And I'm not saying take a vote tonight, but we need more answers. And we can't just rest back and say, I can't make a vote because of this or that, or, you know, it's out of our hands. This is it. And I am telling the parents of this state, you better get up and start fighting for your kids. Because if NICET
passes those amendments next February, the next amendment that's coming down is a mask, and your kid will never get out of a mask. And it doesn't matter how many times you give them a shot, they will never get out of a mask. So where do we go from here? Do we ask Chris to come back next week? Do the other board members want to say something?
Yeah, I'll say something. Margaret, Lauren, John, thank you. I am pretty sure everybody in this room knows what I'm going to say. I am okay with being the lone naysayer. I hear you. I completely agree about mask breaks. That's just, excuse the language, batshit. There should be mask breaks. I am a teacher. I give my students mask breaks. I am saying that on camera as well.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Because the elementary kids are not getting mask breaks.
No, and I hear that, I do take my responsibility seriously, and I do hear also from other constituents that say that this is not for them. And I hear that, but I must say I have to play the safest card, and I know that some people in here will find that offensive. I do, and I understand. It's, again, excuse the language, it is shit to wear these things. I know that. I am somebody who does have to wear it. The moment I get on the Long Island Railroad platform, into work, it is terrible. I've also had people tell me on the subway, how dare you dip your mask lower. That's too much. I hear that. But I do it because I truly believe that this is the safest way to go about my business. And for kids, I mean, the city is a shit show right now. I come from a different world, I understand that. But I will be the lone naysayer if I have to be. And I appreciate all the voices, but I do not believe that I support child abuse. That one really bites me in the ass.
Well, a 2-year-old for 8 hours a day with no mask breaks, yeah. I'm going to put it in that bucket. I'm sorry. And you know what? The thing we're fighting for you too, Sean, to have that choice. You should have a choice to put that mask on the platform and wear it all day. You're a grown adult. You have that choice. And every parent in this district should have that choice to make with their children. If you feel personally that that is what protects you, you should have the choice to put it on or on your children. But if I don't agree that that's the best choice, I should have the right to make that choice for me and my children. We are not fighting for everyone to be banned or forced to take their masks off when they walk into the school building. That's not this fight. The fight is for the parents to have the right to choose for their child. And I'm sorry, without having children, maybe it's a different conversation.
No.
I don't think
I'm sorry, but I have to make that choice every day. You've never had to make that choice.
I sit with kids longer than their parents do every day. I am offended by that.
Well, I'm sorry, you've never had to make the choice. You can make the choice for yourself.
I will
but
also
I am fighting
hold
for
on, please,
parents to
please
have the choice for their children.
Let me finish. Let me finish with the one point here. I will never cast aspersions on my fellow board members.
No?
I will not at all. I will not do that publicly. If we want to have that discussion, we can have that one-on-one. But I will never speak about personal issues. That crosses
This isn't a personal
line.
issue. All I said was that you have
Yes,
not
I
had
don't
to
have
ever
children.
make that choice. You've never had to make that choice for a child. You've never had to send them to school all day in a mask.
I think
So I have a different perspective. You
I hear
have
that.
a perspective as a teacher. You brought your opinion as a teacher.
I think that went a step too far.
We can agree to disagree.
No, I agree. I agree.
It's okay.
That went too far.
Yeah. Chris, when do you think whoever is going to come down on Blakeman is going to take place? You know, they're not going to let this sit by the wayside. That's a big point. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but when is somebody going to come down and challenge him that he can't do this? When they take aid away from Nassau County? If he's supporting this, do you have an opinion?
Again, I don't have any inside information, so it's part speculation. I would think, I would have thought that something would have happened already in the form of the Attorney General doing something. That hasn't happened. But I'm with you. I have to think that there's going to be some pushback, some legal pushback by New York State with respect to Nassau County and those executive orders. Why that hasn't happened yet, I don't know. But I think some type of legal action is going to take place. But I don't know when that's going to happen. Again, I thought it would have happened already, that there would be some sort of, legal challenge that was initiated. An application for adjunctive relief or something. I would have thought that would have happened already, and it hasn't happened.
I'm sure Blakeman's attorneys or the county's attorneys have, before they made this move, I know he campaigned very heavily for no mask, but I'm sure their attorneys looked this through, and they're not going to, I know the guy personally, but I'm just saying, I know they're not going to put this through just to push it through, but they must have some basis that they have here.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they looked at it from a legal standpoint to try to find the legal authority for the county executive to issue these orders. In any situation where you have litigation, you have lawyers on one side who believe the law is X, and you have lawyers on the other side who believe the law is Y. And that's why at the outset of, giving some background, I described to you that there's statutes, there's regulations, and there's case law. So, it may be that we're going to eventually have some case law that will determine, who's right and who's wrong on the legal basis for the county executive to do what he did.
George? And how much power does the county have against the state?
Well, the county's a subset of the state. I don't think it has any power over the state.
I mean authority, to make a statement like that and to fight the state on that.
Well, again, I think the county has taken the position that under the municipal home rule law,
right,
that it has the ability to regulate locally within its county on certain things, and they're saying that those certain things also include, school regulations.
Right.
Now, whether or not they're correct in that belief, I don't know that we're going to definitively find out until some type of legal action takes place and we get some sort of legal decision.
That's pretty wide open, isn't it? That
yeah.
It's like a couple football fields long,
I think the intent here is to confuse the public, the back and the forth, the executive orders, this, to that, and nobody even knows which way is up.
Yeah, you're right.
I honestly think that's the intent.
And the state is being very, the state has been like that for a while.
She went on and she threatened him the other day that anybody who crosses her does so at their peril. I would have expected an injunction if it was a law. That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
I mean, Letitia James is, right there. Their offices are probably next door to each other.
The pressures that the governor puts on the Department of Health are tremendous. It's their boss, basically. They were appointed, but in business, the pressure's coming from the top to the Department of Health. Are they going to be like Margaret and Lauren and, are they going to fight against their boss? That's the bottom line. It's pure business.
Yeah, I don't think the Department of Health is going to fight against their boss.
No.
The county might.
Well, I know just from speaking to the county DOH prior to Blakeman taking office, he has been lobbying the state, telling him his data, and that what he felt. He happens to be one of the only, I think he's the only virologist in the whole state. But I think it's also, I've said it before, I think it's really important to say that the state has the data. They know that the schools aren't the problem. They know that. They've known it since September 2020. They could have given metrics and data all last year. They could have given it out in September and said, let's start the year in masks, and then when we get to this point, you can, go mask free or something like that. They didn't. They didn't offer one bit, not in the first August face covering prevention mandate, and then the November 24th, and then the December 10th. Not once in any of those documents is there any type of data. And our schools statewide have to report it. They have the data. They don't say when you hit this metric, you're out, or when you hit this metric, mask up. Nothing. It's at the determination of the commissioner of the state of New York Department of Health. And in November, prior to them reissuing the extension, they called it, I think it was called a Public Health Committee met. Who is that? Who is the Public Health Committee? Nobody even knows. Listen, when Cuomo sent down his stuff, it had his name on it, and it had Zucker's name on it, and it was official every time, because it was under an executive order. I feel like this is just, I don't understand. I don't understand. I just don't understand anymore. I really don't. So you can keep fighting to keep your kids in masks, but the game's going to be over soon enough.
George?
So, thank you to all who shared their opinions and their thoughts and their, legal progressions. It's sort of amazing to me that it's necessary to go on the record with the following, but, I'll entertain the tone and sentiment. Nobody wants to wear these damn things. It sucks. We all know it. It's a pain in our ass. It's a pain in everyone's ass. I get it. In August, after a lot of deliberation myself, I went ahead with parental choice. I want my kid in a mask, but I was willing to understand and appreciate others who may want to choose something else. Given, at that point in time, the legal, legislative, statutory data, however you want to label it, things simply change at a really rapid period of time. If we want to put it to a vote right now, right here, right now, I am not going to vote for parental choice. I have not been convinced yet in terms of the analysis of distinctions between law, mandate, whatnot, who can do what. I want clarity before I will put my name to that kind of vote. I want to understand that. I want to make sure I'm not putting our district, our students, our families, our finances, anything at undue risk. I want to make sure that I understand the full picture. And that's always the way that I've been. I've handled every single issue that's come before this board in that exact same way. I measure twice and cut once. I don't just shoot from the hip. Never have, and I never will. It sucks. The thing that concerns me most out of this conversation, to be clear, is that there seems to be, unfortunately, a continued discrepancy in how we are managing this painful process across the district. My daughter's classroom My daughter's classroom, they have mask breaks whenever they want. It's not yellow, it's not green, it's not by row. It's the child needs it and the child gets it. And then I hear from my colleagues that there's no mask breaks on another side of town or another classroom down the hall. That's a problem for me. That's a problem for me. So I don't know what we need to do further to get that message out there to people, to allow them to have the breaks in this interim. But yeah, I want to, between now and next week, I'd like to see, is there going to be an injunction? Is there not going to be an injunction?
Yeah.
Does this executive order stand? Does it not stand? I'll give a correlation. State ed, right, regulates fingerprinting in the teach system for departments of education across the state and for vendors and for teachers, how they get fingerprinted. The commissioner is responsible for reviewing fingerprints. And as you dig into that law, there are regulations that are left completely vague and amorphous up to the discretion of the Commissioner of Education. So if a certain form is used, is that law? Or is that a mandate? Or is that a requirement? I don't know. People argue that all the time, back and forth on a variety of things. But as it stands right now, tonight, I, for one, will not vote for parental choice until I have more information. And I want more information. The week is worth it for me to make sure that I'm not looking here in March telling you we're out 4.3 million. Or suddenly they remove all of us. We're worried about representation, about being here for our constituents. In the event that they remove us, then we have another big headache on our hands. And I don't want to be in the press for that as a district. I don't think that's worthwhile. So I want to understand more. So that's where I am.
And I don't believe that the people that would replace us would be district residents. Am I correct on that, Chris? It would be appointed by the Commissioner of Education?
I'm not really sure. I would think they would have to be district residents.
I assume so. I assume residents.
I think they would have to be.
I don't know how they would pick them.
George, I want to be clear, because Brian, I had no intention of taking a vote tonight. I thought it was a public work session. I thought we weren't allowed to take votes. So I just, it's a conversation.
I just want to be.
I just want to be clear.
I want to make sure I'm just clear about where
I
I
have a lot of
stand with
questions
everybody.
that Chris couldn't answer tonight. And I also just want to make, sometimes numbers get thrown out there. Our state aid is not 4.3 million. Am I right? Just because you just used that number, I just.
4.15.
State aid?
It's 4.3 million.
4.3
was state aid.
4.3.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to lose $4.3 million, believe me. You think you're going to get the people in the audience here? They'll be packed here if you're losing $4.3 million.
5%.
So, and in the past, I've heard board members, myself included, and ask the question, can we exit the state on this? You can't do that. There's regulations. You can't say, we're not taking your money. There's too many things that they give us. The bottom line is, for me, is someone has to stand up, make a determination what it is. If it keeps floundering, it's tough to make a decision, the right decision. I can go with my heart is not to wear a mask, but financially feasible, I can't be either. That's not why I was put here. So it may not happen in a week. I don't think it's going to happen in a week. We'll see. So I'm not ready to vote either. I'm not clear on the outcome, but I know what my heart wants to do. I want to vote parental choice, but financially I don't want to put this district or this community in an uproar by giving up $4.3 million. All right, that's my position.
Chris, this extension expires February 1st. What could, a district writing a letter means nothing. A superintendent writing a letter means nothing.
It means nothing.
It means nothing. Do you agree with me? It means nothing? Yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree with you
nothing.
totally. It means
Yeah.
nothing.
What could the legal parties do to find out, from the state, what metrics, will get us, if this extension expires February 1, then everyone can do what they want to do. Nobody has to vote, right? Everybody can do what they want. Everybody's free. Free again.
If it expires, yes, you're right.
Free at last.
But it's not going to expire.
So
Margaret.
I understand it's not going to expire, but I'd like to know why it won't expire. To sit back and just say, okay, they just extended it with absolutely no information. I don't know where the people who were yelling and screaming about science are. I mean, wouldn't they want to know where we're at, where we need to be, where we have to get to? If we don't at least ask the questions, and I'm asking the legal teams to do it. You guys you and Gercio together represent pretty much half the state. Why can't you find that out on our behalf, or at least start giving a pathway to get out of this?
They don't want to be in that position, Margaret. That's the bottom line.
But then what's the alternative? That these kids are going to be in masks forever? Children who are in second grade don't remember life any other way.
They don't want to be put in that position, number one. Number two, in my life, and the ones that hold the most cards usually win, unless you get support on the back end. And you need a lot of support to beat the state. And they hold all the cards, they hold all the money. Is it right? No.
So Margaret, I know, I don't know what metrics the Department of Health is currently using. We do have contacts within the Department of Health, so I could try to get some information in terms of, what metrics they use. I remember you and I had a conversation over the summer, and, I said to you, there's no way that we're going to be required to wear masks in September. You remember that? I remember. And I believe that firmly. And
what did I say to you?
You said, I'm not so sure.
I said, you're dead wrong. That's what I said.
And you know what? If it wasn't for Omicron, we wouldn't be wearing masks. I don't believe.
No.
But I think
No.
I have to
make
other
that.
factors that caused that.
We had Delta in July, but somehow, Jay Jacobs' sleepaway camps all remained open.
I know.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And in the middle of July, when the narrative started turning on the Delta variant, it's coming. September 3rd it starts. We all sat in here in August with no masks. But September 3rd, it started. It's kind of like what happened in December. December 10th, 11th, and 12th, you were safe. But 13th, watch out. It knows the calendar days.
Yeah.
So it's not the Omicron. It's going to be the next one. The next one's
I know.
Flurona. The next one after that is another cron. It's just going to keep
Right.
going. So I don't understand. And you know what? If the answer is we've all given up, then I know my answer. And I got to do what I have to do for myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to fight. I have no skin in the game. I had no skin in the game last year for athletics. My kids were out of here. I have no skin in the game this year. None. And I take a lot of heat. So you can continue to fight to keep your children in masks at an unreasonable rate when CDC and Fauci this week came out and said the cloth masks that have been on your children for 2 years almost don't work. The next thing, your children will be wearing N95s. You heard it here first. So I don't understand why people don't see the progression. I just don't understand it. And, why the light bulb doesn't go on and say, wait a minute, there were people saying the masks didn't work, and there were people that coming yelling the masks did work, and we needed the mask because it's safe. But wait a minute, Fauci and CDC just said this week, you know what, Fauci actually said, that cloth thing doesn't do anything. And we're sitting here saying, let's keep our kids in masks. For what? For theater? For a false sense of security?
To make you feel like your kid is better than the next kid or you're a better person than the next person? And I'm going to tell you this right now. I know how many times I was reported to state ed, and I fully expect to be removed from this board every single time I come in here. I have yet to receive a fine, and I have yet to be removed. Although there is a petition to remove me, and if I make it the next 4 months, I make it the next 4 months. I don't care what happens to me. But I can't force other people to do the right thing or to stand up or to think the way I think, and I respect, and everybody on this board knows this. Brian and I, we had a, kumbaya moment. This board gets along. This board respects each other. And yes, do we have debate? Yes. And sometimes things are said in the boardroom that are hurtful. Maybe they're not in public, but things are said, and we all get by it. But at the end of the day, this board, I respect everybody's thoughts on here. I respect your vote, and I've always respected your vote no matter what we were voting on, because that's what this country is built on. Discourse, debate, and then the right to vote and represent the people who elected you. So I guess we'll move on to next week.
What is our legal obligation in respect to the executive order? So he's mandated that everyone have a vote by a certain date, is that right? And what happens if we don't hold a formal vote, or do we need to hold a formal vote? How is that managed?
There's no indication in that executive order what will happen if people don't do that, so I don't know.
Is there a date? Do you have the language of the executive order, Chris?
Not on me, no.
I do.
Brian, did you want to chime in at all?
Yeah, at first I had really a loss of words as to what to say and different feelings that I had on this. I know it's a divisive topic. I do have a skin in the game. All right, I have 3 children. My daughter's in 8th grade, attends North Shore Middle School. She wears her mask. She's adamant, even when she gets in the car with me, when I go to the grocery store, wherever I happen to be, Dad, please. My son Thomas, 4 years old, who goes to the YMCA, he's excited about his mask. I got my dinosaur mask, I got my construction truck mask, and he's doing fine. So I do have a skin in the game. One of the things I do want to be clear on, and I guess a question to Dr. Graham, is the messaging as far as mask breaks are concerned. I'm a little taken to hear that is it not being consistent across the district as far as mask breaks?
I do not know of any instances where our students aren't given opportunities to have mask breaks or breaks from the mask throughout the day consistently. I think from the very beginning we have been trying to be as lenient as possible with masks, and that doesn't mean that there isn't someone who's reminding a student at a time in the day to pull their mask up or to wear it properly. And the truth is, I think people are afraid across the board at all levels, but I think they're doing their best to not convey that fear to our students. And I see students. I was in elementary buildings today. I saw students taking breaks from their masks. So I don't know where that's happening. I don't know where the message is getting lost, or if there's how it's translating to getting to this table as there's students going the entire day without a break, but that's not what I'm seeing when I'm in our schools.
This has been happening since they've been coming back from break. And I'm getting messages as we're sitting here.
I don't see it.
This class, we're not,
I do not see it.
It's the teachers that are now saying after the break, mask breaks are no longer allowed. Teachers that were very lenient with mask breaks. But it's not a matter of seeing it. I don't have to tell you. We can get plenty of class moms or plenty of parents to come up, I'm sure, and say they were taken away. I'm sure there are certain teachers that have not. I'm sure that are doing the right thing, allowing kids to take the breaks they need. I believe that 100%. But again, we're talking about consistency, and I'm sitting here saying that there isn't. It's something that we should look into. I appreciate that when you've seen it. I'm happy to hear that. But it's not the case in every class across the board.
And that's important to me. I don't know necessarily if I would deviate off of the order right as of this time either. I agree with George, Sean, and really John. My heart tells me one thing too. I work in we're talking about, where we work, aside from my personal family, I work in one of the largest elementary schools in Nassau County. I watch close to 900 children navigate the building, and they're fine.
They like it. They like the masks.
So, that's kind of where I'm at. The last thing I do want to just say is, as far as the tone of disrespect, maybe it's not the right way to put it, but at the board table, I'll reserve that for a board retreat and working together. Each of us brings to this table a different perspective, and I just want to be mindful. I want each board member to be mindful about put downs, and to just please continue to be respectful with one another. Any other comments from the board table? Okay, we'll open it up now for comments from the audience.
Amy Hockey Hartnett. I have a prepared statement, all from the pediatric website. I have one from my husband. I always read from a prepared statement. You can have them if you want. Honestly, I just want to say, I have a child, and I have stepchildren, and I'm a dedicated teacher of 25 years. And you do not need to be a parent. Once you've dedicated your life to taking care of children, you don't need to be a parent. And by that crappy, disgusting, trashy logic, it's important. No. You all cursed on that board. I don't want to hear a single word.
I've never cursed.
I didn't curse. I didn't say you did. I said on the board. So don't tell me how to behave when this board doesn't behave. You don't have a sick child. You don't have an immunocompromised.
You don't know anything about my children. You have some nerve standing here telling me you know about my children.
I have time, and I will not be interrupted by the likes of you.
And I will not let you insult my children.
I didn't insult your children. I insulted you.
Miss Harnett, you have the right
If
to
you
make.
want to speak directly at a board member, first of
Miss Harnett,
You are trash.
Miss Harnett,
That is a terrible thing
please
you
direct
said
your comments
to
to
a
the board.
dedicated professional who teaches children. You have
who
no
told,
idea.
who sat here and said,
You
who made
have
his comments and
classrooms
I
full
made
of
mine.
people
Miss Harnett.
who take mass
Excuse me.
breaks. You know
Please
that they
direct
take
your
mass
comments to the
breaks.
board.
I am.
Thank you.
Is
Thank
she
you.
not part of the board?
Thank you. Not to an individual
Thank
board, but
you.
to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Thank you.
have people at
Thank
my
you.
time has been taken away by the people who are speaking. So I'm going to continue to speak, as you know I will. The fact of the matter is, when a child is hurt on this campus, you use pediatricians to take care of them. When the pediatricians on the American Association of Pediatrics says in the statement that I prepared that you can read on their website, that this is the only way forward. If you are putting bad masks on your children, don't. I don't. My son has disposable masks. He throws them out throughout the day. If you're putting bad ones on, change them. There are solutions to this. But at this moment, we have beautiful, amazing homes that sit waterfront for years that can't sell. When you flip through the real estate guides that are all over the place, they mention Manhasset, always. They mention Jericho, they mention North Shore Schools where you have your son. They mention all of the fine places where you can educate your children. Where they don't mention is Locust Valley Public Schools. This is a place that cares about its politics more than its children. You talked about IB and AP and choice and choice and choice. You're trying to take away from us the health and safety of our children. You know that that's the way forward. You know that's what the doctors want. You wouldn't call a doctor or an ambulance if you didn't think they know what they were talking about. They are telling you to do this in the schools, and you can hold on a little bit longer. This is outrageous. It is outrageous. It is political. It is, can I get my name in the paper? That's all it is. You don't care about our kids.
Mrs.
And
Hartnett,
it's
the only thing that's political is
absolutely
you wearing that mask. I am sorry.
Mrs.
You are a
Hartnett, thank you
hypocrite.
thank you for your
Sorry.
comment.
Sorry.
I
Sorry.
would like my time back.
No, you
I
had,
would-
the
I
buzzer
would
went
like
off, my
time
friend.
back. You spoke through my comments. Polythema spoke through my comments. I am not going to sit down.
Names. Sit down. Your time is up.
Are you like mentally unstable?
Excuse me.
Sit down.
Ms. Harnett,
Am I safe
what
with
do you
these
have to
people
finish?
standing here?
Oh, my
My
God.
time, I'm signed up next.
Ms. Harnett, what do you have to finish?
I'm having a hard time focusing with people on my
Your
back.
time is up.
Will you mind sitting and then coming back up for the?
I would mind. I would like the
Let her
people who are
finish.
on
Just
my
please-
back.
okay,
to move
okay.
forward.
Just finish.
Brian, who cares? Just let her finish. What, the buzzer went off, but continue.
You spoke through my comments, and so did she. So I didn't have my comments. I had your comments.
Ms. Harnett, I didn't gavel you down. Would you
buzzer
please
went off
finish? I
while
did
you
not
were
gavel you
spinning.
down.
Finish
Please.
your comments.
No, I don't want to say anything else. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Wow, that was embarrassing. I, for one, want to thank Margaret and Lauren for standing up for our children. As the grandmother of a kindergartner and a second grader who have not had a day of school without a mask, of the 5-year-old who's coming home with acne from the mask, who can't wait to pull it off when they get off the bus. I picked them up today with them to do their homework. I just don't understand how anyone thinks these masks are good. The little one, we're 99% sure the 5-year-old was the one who brought home Omicron before Christmas. All 6 of us got it. We're talking 2 unvaccinated children, a mother, the teacher, who's double vaxxed and boosted, and my husband, myself, and my son, who all had the J&J. We all got Omicron, okay? The masks don't work. Why you would continue, any of you, to subject our children to this? Our kindergartner had speech therapy when he was 4. The district very graciously paid for that, and it helped him. And now he's regressed because he has to be behind a stupid mask all day. So they don't work. It is child abuse. It's absolutely horrible to see. I mean, the second grader at least, I've told them, take them off. Don't, pull them down. Do not wear them. You want to breathe, take them down. And if anybody gives you a hard time, you call GAMI. And GAMI will be up there. Because it is child abuse, Sean. It is. And this has got to stop. And so what if you lose $4 million from the state? This district spends over $45,000 per student. And I guarantee you, I could go through that budget line by line and cut $4 million like that, all right, for all you spend on consultants and garbage. So take a stand, be brave, be bold. Margaret and Lauren have done it. They've walked the walk. They went to Albany. They went to Bruce Blakeman. I'm so proud of them, and they have children. They know what they're going through, and this is the time. You're worried about $4 million, John? Come on. Let's do the right thing for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to be speaking on the 2 issues, mostly the first one. I should have listened to my friend when she warned me about the horrors of the IB program. Enrolled in the IB diploma program, her daughter experienced constant anxiety and periodic breakdowns from the intensity of the program. A talented, intelligent student, she devoted all her spare time to the program, essentially ruined her senior year, only to miss the diploma by 1 point. Despite those warnings, and as we were, emphasis on the were, advocates of the program, and the promised educational benefits one would reap from having received the prestigious honor, my oldest daughter enrolled in the Ivy Diploma program. Fast forward 2 years of rare lunch periods, late nights and weekends, working tirelessly on projects and assignments, having to completely redo her extended essay thanks to the errors of the assigned IB faculty. Many tears and 0 credit given by her university for that piece of paper, because in the end, that's all it was. NYU, top 15, AP Scholar, AP credits accepted, St. John's accepted. IB, nope. When it was time for my second daughter to pick her curriculum for 11th grade, we were much wiser. You know the old adage, fool me once? After seeing what her older sister had gone through, daughter number 2 was convinced she did not want to partake in IB anything. But at Locust Valley, that is almost an impossibility. As an honor student and needing challenging core subject courses, she was left with only IB courses from which to choose. Well, with the exception of pre-calc honors, no AP courses in sight. Well, to be perfectly transparent, AP Art was offered, chosen by my daughter, but when her schedule arrived, she was assigned Ceramics 1 and 2 in its place. I guess AP Art didn't make the cut. She's thankfully homeschooled now. Huge emphasis on thankfully. As always, when I speak, I hope to educate and open the minds of people who may not be aware of the mistruths and false hope pushed forth by our educational system. And for tonight in the IB program. For those not aware, the IB program was devised for UNESCO and the UN, developed for the purpose of creating an international education system. It is a globalist program with an agenda that is nefarious at best. On the other hand, the Advanced Placement Program is an entirely US-based program. Locust Valley should offer more AP courses from which students can select. AP courses are challenging college-level courses from which students can actually obtain college credit. We need to stop perpetuating the lie of a promise that your IB diploma will be accepted by places of higher education and receive credit. We don't need more indoctrination. We don't need more globalist New World Order thinking. We need more opportunities for learning, self-sufficiency, trade schools without embedded ideologies or politics for those seeking them. And as for the masks, take them off. No one can take away your natural God-given rights. Just as Glinda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz said, always here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have been writing, I guess when they said that the mask breaks were going to be taken away, I emailed everybody and I have been writing the mask breaks were going to be given to the kids. So, I mean, I'm surprised. My kids get mask breaks even though they were freezing in their classes with the windows open yesterday. So imagine having to pick up, I'm pretty sure that Sean can relate with me picking up my 6-year-old in kinder after she was freezing all day at school. So are they giving breaks, yes or no? And if they are, that means that we're breaking some rules. So who picks and chooses which rules we break? Because if that's the case, then like my son said in his, third grade, I think? He told me, it's like who's gonna make me wear my mask? So who chooses and pick what rules can we break? Which windows are open and which windows are closed? And why are the windows open? Isn't that like contributing to global warming if we're putting all that heat outside and wasting all that energy? So why are we heating the school if we're gonna have the kids freezing inside? That's a lot of money wasted. Maybe those $4 million could be from there. Just a thought.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Angelo DiMaggio. Okay, so just to recap, we have Trustee Steele that would, again, cherry pick because he'd at least vote for mask breaks, which we went through this whole, iteration of how the law was created, and he's pretty much cherry picking. He's not saying he's for or not. He'd choose to break one specific point of the law that was added in as 206 or 602. Then you have Trustee John that would vote no for financial reasons. And you got Trustee Basillo that would pretty much vote no for legal reasons, but nobody's asking how this would affect the children at all. It's not for the benefit of the children. What if I brought you a Brown University study that shows that it's detrimental to the children's psychology and their growth and their development? Would you care about that? Does anybody even ask to see more scientific data on the effects it does have on children, pro or against? So basically, this board has an obligation to protect the children, but nobody's raising those issues. They're hiding behind financial issues, litigation issues, not getting in trouble, and so forth. So we're allowing fear of the law trump the protection of the children. We're admitting that we're sacrificing basically the well-being of the children for the sake of covering your own asses. We have to take this seriously and think about the children first. We have to see how this is affecting the children positively, detrimentally, or net neutral. Nobody's asking those questions. I don't know if anybody cares. We're just going through the legal ramifications. Rosa Parks would have followed the law. We would still be what? Not allowing African Americans to sit on the back of the bus? Somebody has to take a Rosa Parks stand and possibly challenge the law for the sake of justice and righteousness, and take a stand and have somewhat of a backbone. There's only 2 women that are standing here. The rest of the men have sat silent unless forced to make a comment, which is embarrassing.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth McGoldrick. I live in Bayville. I have a 5-year-old daughter at Bayville Primary. Just want to make couple quick statements. Brian, you said earlier that you work in a school and you see a bunch of kids every day wearing masks and they're fine. I don't think that it's appropriate to say that all children are fine. I don't think it's anyone's place to really say how each individual kid is doing, especially if it's like a big group of kids. Anyway, I'm going to talk about my daughter, Molly, a little bit. She's 5, as I said, and she's high-functioning autism spectrum. She's really smart. She excels in math. I've been told she has a high IQ, but she struggles tremendously speech and socialization. And I have to send her to school every day with a mask on her face. And I'm encouraging her so much, and my family and her teachers, I know, to speak. We want her to speak. And I'm sending her to school every day with a mask on her face and follow social cues. She can't do that. And I just feel like this is more detrimental to her and her future by you putting a mask on her face and her what, getting COVID? Guess what? We had COVID in her house. Guess what? Molly was fine. She didn't have a single symptom. So I'm just not really sure what we're doing here and why we're doing this to our children. And like, let's not think about them as like a big group. Oh, they're okay. Like, no, these are individuals. Everyone has different issues, and I think we need to really think about how we're going to affect these children long term. Like, my poor kid could be progressing so much more, but she's wearing a mask on her face every day. How's that fair to her? And look, I know there's all these legalities and all these like little pieces that you don't know, but I think we're just asking you as a community to just look into those a little bit more. I think we just owe this to our children. That's all I'm saying. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, Brian.
Trustee Steele.
Just before we wrap up, I want to make it clear. It's unfortunate that the person who made those unfortunate statements is no longer here. I disagree with people. We get that. We all do. But Lauren Themis has done wonderful work for this community over the years, including buying and organizing food for first responders and frontline workers before she even got on the board, and continued to do so after she got on the board. We cannot tolerate that type of attacking and character assassination. I know I'm probably going to get, well, I can't curse anymore apparently. We're going to get pushback, I get it, but I can't let that, yeah, I'm a little upset. I'm offended. But I would never stoop to that level. I cannot support that, and I'm embarrassed. I am embarrassed. And I mean this for everybody. We got to tone it down. We just got to tone it down because, honestly, she doesn't have to be here. I don't have to be here. And I know many of you don't want me here. I get that. I'll be gone at the end of next year. I promise you. I will be gone. Please applaud for that. I need the applause for that. Get me out of here. Okay?
Sean, I appreciate your words and you sticking up.
Thank you.
My comments to you were not in any way to be derogatory, to insult you. I have a different view, and I felt insulted after sharing that the kids don't have mask breaks. And I think when I heard you say, oh, I give mask breaks? Yeah, I give them. I'm for the mask breaks, and I give them to my students. and then talk about your experience as an adult. I know as adults we hate masks. But I think my excitement and my comments came from the conversation that we're having about children and how I have a very personal experience with children as a mom and a different point of view. But that doesn't take away from, I think, anybody at this table having respect for each other's point of view and understanding that we come from different places with different age children or no children or careers. But my conversation tonight is about the welfare of the kids. I fight my own battles for mask wearing out of this boardroom. But my fight here is strictly for the students in this district. And I applaud you for giving those kids mask breaks that they deserve. I do. Long may it continue. So thank you. I'm sorry, please.
Mary Capel. Mary Capel. I wrote this up just so I didn't mix things up. One, I just want to say this about what I've seen here, is I feel like the board is splitting hairs and implying that somehow the decisions are going to be made on the hope that there's no consequences coming down from the state. And I hope no student in this district decides to behave the same way in their life and in this school, hoping that no consequences come down because they're looking for loopholes or minutia that allow a little escape from what is being required of the district. Our own school board policy is filled with shoulds, coulds, may, all those words. Probably for the same purpose that maybe other documents are. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But it's just disheartening to see that. State regulations require safety measures, including the wearing of masks in school buildings. Defying them puts students, their families, and faculty at further risk. There are people on this board that are not fighting for my son, or people's families that I know, or people's children that I know, however loudly you say it. We're all exhausted, but COVID is surging. Dropping safety measures prematurely will reduce in-person learning. We're all asking for numbers, matrices. Where are the numbers on this, the numbers of that? Where are the numbers on how much, when there are a certain amount of teachers absent and subs that don't teach and security guards supervising classes? Where are the metrics on when we need to pivot remote? Losing $3 million would result in higher taxes. Before you guys make a decision on that, I would like to see the community opened up to that. This is a possibility. What would you like to do? Find out the matrix on that. How many people want that in our community? Betsy Rosa is the New York State Educational Department Commissioner. I live in New York State. My student is in school, the Locust Valley School District. Her statement said, counties do not have the legal authority to require boards of education to vote on specific issues. School officers take an oath to obey all legal requirements. The State Education Department expects school boards will follow requirements, including the face covering regulation. And that's what I would expect that my school board would do in New York under her leadership.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Cabell.
Oh, I have a quick
Okay,
question. Would you consider replacing the masks that are given out at each school district with KN95s instead of the little blue masks? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to move into executive session in order to discuss matters related to negotiations with the bargaining unit. Executive session is a portion of our school board meeting that is not open to the public. If there is any action to be taken, it will be done so in public session. We have a motion to go into executive session. Trustee Del Tato, seconded. Trustee Vasiliou, all in favor? So moved. Thank you.